Boom. The shady covering Shiryu and Whitebeard was shattered. Whitebeard is still standing, looking unchanged. But Shiryu squinted his eyes and felt the power in his body. His face was ecstatic. He held his sword high in the thunderstorm, and the surface of the blade was covered with a transparent gas mask. Kaka kaka, the surrounding atmosphere suddenly cracked, and the space kept shaking. Really transferred Whitebeard's power to other people. How did this guy do it? Everyone was shocked. Oh shit. Blackbeard's face is green. His default devil fruit has become Shiryu's. Blackbeard regretted it. He had known that I would save him, so he should have killed the bastard Shiryu and impelled down early. He could even change his routine, like Shiryu, and take refuge in Miller. If he had to give up his dignity, he could be Miller's son. After all, he had been the son of Whitebeard for decades. Boss, I have a good suggestion. Shiryu looked flattering. After he got shock fruit, he respected Miller more. We might as well catch Blackbeard together and transfer his abilities to our own people. Wouldn't it be better? You're right, Shiryu. Miller patted Shiryu on the shoulder. The plan worked. Asshole Shiryu. This is how you treated the benefactor who rescued you from Impel Down. Blackbeard was so irritated with this ungrateful thing, he had forgotten that he was such a person. Dark water. When the hairy rough water caught Shiryu's violent gravity, Blackbeard pulled him forcibly. Shiryu twisted his body, resisted a little bit, persisted for about 5 or 6 seconds, and flew straight over. Bang. Shiryu's body fell heavily to the ground, and Blackbeard's fists, furious, threw out vigorously. Shiryu's long sword methodically set up the defense. Boom. Heavy punches hit the knife, and Shiryu's entire body was plunged into the mud. Under the darkness swallowed, the transparent gas shield on the long knife was also absorbed. Blackbeard disdain. Some people, even if they have shock fruit, it's a waste. Anything with insufficient hard power is a joke. Boom. A dangerous wave of air suddenly came oncoming. Blackbeard seemed to have been punched, and his body flew upside down. Miller nodded secretly. This is emission hockey. Rain Shiryu got up quickly, he ran out, and quickly caught up. Blackbeard's eyes were cold, his fists condensed the darkness, just as he was about to launch an attack. A bear's palm-shaped air cube drifted over. Big bear impact. Miller screamed, and the cube suddenly exploded, releasing a shockwave that was devastating. Rumble. Blackbeard was hit tragically. A powerful shockwave passed over him, and his internal organs were severely impacted. A mouthful of old blood was sprayed out, and the darkness on hand was shaken away. Upon seeing this, Shiryu adopted a sneak attack strategy again, covering the air shield with a long knife in his hand and swept it out. Boom. The shock of shock fruit hit Blackbeard's back, and his entire back was sunken, not to mention, he was even split by a long knife. It's miserable. The Marine side looked at Blackbeard, who was besieged, and it was too tragic. It's just that no one sympathized with him. Both the Whitebeard pirates and Marine hated Whitebeard. He released the prisoners of Impel Down, and Sengoku couldn't wait to execute Blackbeard. Not to mention the Whitebeard pirates, all the tragedies are because of him, and I can't wait to put Blackbeard to death. Seeing Blackbeard being beaten, both parties were extremely happy. Puff. Blackbeard fell to the ground. He was not the kind of man who was particularly resistant to beatings. His flesh was not as thick as a kainu, and he was as strong as a kainu. After several attacks in turn, this guy was hit hard and was dying. I'm going to kill this guy myself. Ace glanced at the opportunity, and a thick flame erupted from his fist. Dark water. Blackbeard created a dark screen on the right side of his body and absorbed all the incoming flames. Freed. Blackbeard yelled, and a tornado-shaped black mist rolled up on the remnant body, and all the flames swallowed by darkness erupted. Rumble. The members of the Whitebeard pirate group suffered a violent crit, and many people were burned alive in the sea of flames. This idiot. Still want to kill Blackbeard? Miller covered his cheek speechlessly. This guy was completely restrained. It looks like you're over here, Teach. Shiryu walked up to Blackbeard, and the thunderstorm in his hand was cut towards his head. Damn it. The arm shook, the spark spattered away, and Blackbeard's head was covered with armament hockey, which was extremely strong. Shiryu's pupils widened in an instant, and Blackbeard's armed color couldn't be so strong. With this level, I wouldn't have hurt him just now. Why suddenly? Gia Gia ha ha ha. A strange and gloomy laugh came from Blackbeard's mouth. It's finally out again. Teach, stupid son, should have given me control of his body long ago. It's so miserable, huh? Blackbeard, who was unable to fight anymore, stood up suddenly, and his momentum was different from that of the previous Blackbeard. He looked at Shiryu with a sharp look. Your knife, too much pause. He grabbed Shiryu with his palm, darkness raged, and gravity locked him. Shiryu quickly began to struggle. Before he could resist 1 or 2 times, but now, Blackbeard's control of dark fruit has suddenly increased by several levels. Shiryu was caught without resistance. Boom. A heavy punch directly greeted Shiryu. His entire stomach collapsed on the spot, and the blood rushing out of his mouth was a few meters away. Shiryu fell to the ground and couldn't stand up anymore. This punch directly killed him in seconds. Yo, Garp. Blackbeard suddenly looked at Garp in the distance, and asked gloomily. Now, you don't have Roger to help you? When these words fell, everyone was shocked, and some people didn't even know what happened. Has the Rocks guy come out again? This was the second time Miller had encountered this situation, and every time Blackbeard was about to die, he was a dead man who came out to help. Miller gathered hockey on his fist, and he was ready to fight. Huh. Rocks acted. Even if observation hockey is a good player, he can only feel a gust of wind swept by, and the breath disappeared in no time. People's reaction nerves can't catch up. Miller was covered with barrier defenses, like armor. Boom. A strong air current hits from the other side. Miller turned his head to look. The target of Rock's attack was the hero Garp. The fists of the two collided, the aftermath swept out, and the ruins of naval headquarters and even the battleship on the sea were overturned by the current. Hey, Garp, after so many years, you have made progress. When the blow failed, Rocks preached with a lesson in his back. You're not bad, the remaining soul body still has such strength. Feeling the strength from his fist, Garp was depressed, his knuckles creaked. If he is resurrected in the true sense, his strength will be even stronger. At that time, he and Roger teamed up to defeat Rocks. Even strong men such as Whitebeard, Golden Lion, Ant and Kaido have been subjugated to Rocks as little brothers, which is enough to see how strong this guy is. If there is not enough strength, how could it be possible to shock those guys? The only thing that puzzles Garp is how did this guy survive? Back then, he teamed up with Roger to defeat this guy, and even Rock's body was shattered because of the fierce war. The ghost knew that he had survived as a soul. Drink. Rocks yelled and stomped the ground with his feet, releasing a super air current all over his body. Garp's eyes condensed, and a fierce shock was also released in his body. Boom. 2 invisible forces collided together, and the air came out with a sharp, tearing sound, and everyone around was lifted into the sea. This is far more fierce than Conqueror's hockey collision. Unexpectedly, Rock's physique is so good. Miller looked at the two in surprise. This was a confrontation between emission hockey. But the opportunity has come. Miller smiled weirdly, and walked towards the two fighting hearts. The closer the distance, the more obvious the scattered shock. Click. Miller felt his body squeezed. The armament hockey and observation hockey carrier Monkey D. Garp were successfully captured, and now they are copied. 1%, 50%, 100%, and the copy is successful. Congratulations to the host for acquiring armament hockey and observation hockey. There was a systemic voice in his head, and the smile on Miller's mouth became more obvious. The two armed and confronted Miller, and even though he was not the target of the attack, he had been affected. Therefore, the system successfully detected Garp. As for Rocks, the test failed. A similar example appeared in Alabasta before. The system said he was a soul body, and the attack did not count. This is the worst part of the system. What kind of ability does Rocks have? Miller is really looking forward to it. But when Garp was detected in this way, Miller was content. Can you still stand up, Shiryu? Miller walked up to Shiryu and asked. Cough cough cough. Barely possible. Shiryu wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and looked at Blackbeard in horror, his lips still trembling. Teach this guy has hidden his strength before? That's right, but he is not his strength, but his dead ghost father. Miller casually explained that he couldn't help but think of a person for Emperor's Big Mom. She was a master of soul, Paramisha's soul and fruit ability. Maybe she was the one who saved Rocks and saved his soul. After all, she was also a member of Rock's Pirate. Let's retreat. Miller looked around and found that almost all the ability to copy was copied, and there was no need for Marlin to stay there anymore. Good. Shiryu was holding his stomach tremblingly, and now he just wanted to find a place to rest. The punch was so hard it almost knocked him through. As for the Rocks matter, Miller is not interested in it. This guy doesn't look strong and unmatched, but understand that this is naval headquarters, 3 Admiral plus Garp and Sengoku, as long as he dares to fight, Marine can hang him up. Garp, I'll help you. Sure enough, Sengoku became a golden Buddha, and he also joined the battle. As for Marine E, Admiral is temporarily responsible for cleaning up the remnants of the Whitebeard pirates. Miller's palm secreted air masses of fleshy balls and was about to shoot Shiryu directly to Saboti Archipelago when a group of people suddenly rushed over. Boom boom. Not far from the sea, a warship drove up quickly and even took the initiative to fire at the naval headquarters. Which blind-eyed bastard came to join in the fun? The Marines collectively looked into the distance. After seeing the pirate group, without exception, everyone's hearts were clouded. It's that four emperors red-haired Shanks coming. The Marines collectively lost their voices, and naval headquarters has paid a heavy price for a Whitebeard pirate group. Now there is another four emperors. The appearance of red hair made everyone unexpected, especially the Marine executives headed by Sengoku were a little nervous. One rocks is already tricky enough, and there is another Miller watching over there. Now the four emperors of New World are coming again. Is this the rhythm of the destruction of Marine? Don't take the initiative to cause conflict. The red-haired man shouldn't rush into trouble. Crane Vice Admiral took the phone worm and ordered all Marines, not allowing anyone to rashly act. Over the years, red hair pirates has been very low-key. And even though the shells just hit Marin, it didn't hurt anyone, it seemed to be a warning. Boss, what should we do? Yuji Shiryu asked in a low voice. Here is an interesting opponent. Miller also touched his chin thoughtfully. He glanced roughly. The members of Red Hair Pirates seemed incompetent, and each of them was a good hockey player. But Miller copied enough armament hockey and observation hockey, and the same is true for Conquerors. To put it bluntly, he really looks down on redheads. Miller didn't have the interest to delay any longer, the red-haired love was what it was like. He patted Shiryu, as if conjure, it was gone with a swish. Before he was not able to master some of the abilities of the flesh ball fruit, now Miller has basically controlled it, and his level is almost the same as that of a bear, and he can send people to all parts of the world according to his own will. Shiryu has been sent to Saboti Archipelago, where the Miller pirate group has been waiting. Immediately afterwards, his palm was aimed at the air, and the air was easily compressed into squares by him again. Miller moved his fingers lightly, and the cube immediately swallowed him. When he was about to leave Marlin, a very indifferent voice came. After so much trouble, do you want to pat your butt and leave now? Miller followed the sound source, and the other party came from the sea. On the Red Hair Pirate's boat, a man with a broken arm looked down at him condescendingly. This guy has offended red hair. The pirates of the Whitebeard Pirates and Marine both cast smirking glances. Miller is also confused. This seems to be the first time we have met, right? He didn't bother to take care of the red hair, thinking about leaving directly. Clang. The red hair pulled out the saber griffin straight away. The blade was surrounded by cold light. How is Mr. Rayleigh? And Luffy. Redhead used to be a member of the Roger Pirates. Redhead received a lot of care from Rayleigh. Not to mention Luffy, the red hair bet the straw hat and his arm on Luffy. Both of them were beaten by Miller. You find the fault, disabled man. Miller made countless people's heart beat as soon as he spoke. If Lousy breaks his hand like you can just hide it in New World and spend a lot of time, otherwise, the other hand may be broken. Miller's undaunted provocation. Actually he is full of flames. Did Lousy provoke you? Just F***King F***K me? Luffy got beaten? I didn't want to snatch the Murloc slaves Miller bought for 1 billion Bailey. Why Rayleigh was beaten is not to help Luffy out. Miller's words angered the redhead on the spot, and no one had ever dared to laugh at him like this. Rumble. The arrogant conqueror's hockey erupted, shaking the earth, and the calm sea suddenly set off huge waves. The sea frantically impacted many marlins, and some places were directly submerged. Marine is speechless. Miller provokes you. Why do you use them to vent their anger? Conqueror's hockey? Frighten anyone, don't you think someone hasn't? Rumble. Miller's pores opened, and the unrivaled conqueror's hockey was released. The hockey of the two collided together, and the sky was instantly torn apart, not to mention the fact that the sea was also divided into two parts and collided, and the spray flew high in the sky. Miller's gaze was torch, dotted with a stern cold light, and he was very sick of the red-haired nosy fellow. This guy is exactly a double-standard dog. Luffy and Rayleigh hammered him and nothing happened. He beat Rayleigh and Luffy so hard that he came to take revenge? Shanks, converge. This guy can copy your hockey. Beckman came up to remind him softly. Red Hair heard that his eyes sank slightly, and just as Conqueror's hockey was just about to stop, Miller's harsh voice came. "Don't think too much. I don't look down on your trash hockey." Miller sneered. "Lousy has copied too many masters, especially in physical skills. Now the uncle is picky eaters, I can't look down on you anymore. Will Garp's armed color and observation hockey, and Conqueror's hockey of people like Whitebeard, be weaker than the red-haired ones? Obviously it is impossible." Red Hair. Not all tempting to Miller, not even as capable as a reward of tens of millions. Boom. A gunshot fell, and the bullet covering armament hockey flew from the sea. Damn it. The shot was accurate and hit Miller's eyebrows directly. Unfortunately, his head was like a diamond, and the bullet was useless. There was a flash of anger in Miller's eyes. The head is really hard. Usopp put away the sniper rifle. The look on his face was a little surprised. Rumble. The sky suddenly condensed dark clouds, thousands of thunder and lightning converged in the air, and the striking beam of thunder and lightning fell on the battleship of Red Hair pirates. God's sanction. The lightning fell like a meteor, and the sky above the Red Hair pirates was lit up. The red-haired saber condensed the mighty sword energy on it, and he flicked it. Boom. The golden slash and the strip of lightning entangled together, and exploded after a stalemate. The sky is full of scattered electric currents and thousands of tiny sword auras. The blow failed, and Miller attacked again. He smashed his fist in the direction of the sea. The atmosphere shattered and the sea began to roll violently. Shock Fruit's strength was undoubtedly revealed. This is bad. The Red Hair yelled badly when he saw it, and a shocking tsunami of 10 or 20 meters was oncoming. Meteor volcano. Immediately afterwards, Miller bombarded hundreds of times into the depths of the sky, and hundreds of magma fists fell from the sky and smashed into the depths of the sea. Wow. The tsunami successfully engulfed the battleship of Red Hair pirates, and the entire ship was dismembered under the weight of the sea. Bang 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 bang. In addition, the sky full of lava fists fell into the sea. Even if the seawater boiled at this moment, hot bubbles were blowing. The members of Red Hair pirates screamed together. "Hurry up and swim to the shore." After the Red Hair led a group of people ashore, except for a few scattered people intact, the others were burned. By the way, a few people were missing. At this moment, the sea was boiled. It is probably Red Hair and Heartache. Handicapped man, have you drunk enough seawater? Are you still arrogant? Miller's yin and yang voice came again. Don't yell at me wherever you are. You won't be counted in front of me. Good, very good. The blade of the red-haired griffin turned black in an instant, and armament hockey wrapped around it. The dangerous sword aura spread out. Miller was also full of energy. To be honest, he hadn't played against the four emperors in a real sense. Shanks, have you forgotten our purpose here? A figure grabbed the shoulders of the Red Hair from behind. It was Beckman. We are here to end this war, not to continue to expand it. If Red Hair Pirates joins in, then this war will evolve into a real world war at that time. Miller sneered when he heard the words. This guy would fight if he wanted to. Dark Hound. Apart from anything else, Miller directly rewarded Red Hair with a hot magma fist. Seeing this, the Red Hair raised the knife and fell, and flew out with a slashing blow. Pouch. The slashing is all right, and the magma fist is cut into a huge crack. Miller raised his hand and continued to attack. The darkness condensed on his hand, and he grabbed the Red Hair hard. Under the absolute dominance of gravity, the Red Hair was just like everyone else. His slender body flew towards Miller. This guy didn't see the slightest panic in his eyes, and he lifted Griffin calmly, using inertia to stab Miller straight. Boom. The hard fist collided with Griffin, and both sides took a step back. Miller shook his fist, his entire arm numb. The red-haired eyes were still awe-inspiring, and when he was about to continue to attack with the knife, he suddenly realized that something was wrong. Where's the knife? The red-haired dazed raised Griffin. This famous knife now had a handle and a little faint residue. The rusty fruit of paramecia, isn't it? Miller smiled triumphantly, and looked at the iron cheeks of the Red Hair, venting a lot of grievances in his heart. The red-haired saber was corroded by him. A swordsman's saber was destroyed, which is a great irony. And your kid? Miller's gaze suddenly shot at someone, his eyes like the shadow of a sword. Usopp's eyelids jumped wildly when he was being stared, and once again raised the spear in his hand. Miller is the one who must report to him, the guy who exploded his head just now, but it's this stinky kid. Boom. Realizing the crisis, Usopp fired another shot, and the dark bullet was shot again. An electric arc popped out from Miller's fingers. Boom. The bullet flew only half the distance before it was blown to pieces. Miller's spread palms suddenly clenched. He used the fleshy ball fruit to quickly compress the air, and the transparent breath quickly covered himself. Huh. Miller disappeared on the spot, as if space moved. Usopp subconsciously raised his head and looked around, but at this moment, the ground behind him trembled suddenly, and he quickly turned his head back. Not to mention Miller had appeared, but the bear palm air was almost on Usopp's face. Bear shock. Rumble. The violent impact ran over Usopp. He lost consciousness on the spot and fell to the ground like a dead dog, bleeding heavily in his skull. Usopp. The crowd of red hair pirates gathered around, and the red hair himself was even more angry and killed. The weapon is destroyed, and he still has fists. Shanks. Beckman's roar blasted into the red hair's mind, and he calmed down when he was mad, and turned to swoop in. How is Usopp? The red hair asked worriedly. Looking at it, Usopp was really miserable. The ears, mouth, eyes, and nostrils were bleeding, and it was still extremely viscous blood, as if it had beaten some organs into sludge. You must find the best ship doctor for Usopp, or he will be dead. Beckman said in a deep voice. He glanced at the broken naval headquarters. Let's withdraw. What? The people at Red Hair Pirates are stunned. They will retreat before they can show their talents. Isn't this nonsense? If you continue to delay, Usopp will definitely die here. Beckman said with great confidence. Just now, Miller really planned to kill Usopp. But this guy is more tenacious than he thought. The red-haired eyes flickered uncertainly. He originally prevented this war. What happened? As soon as he came up, Miller killed a few of his companions. The ship was also destroyed, and the saber that had been with him for many years turned into iron slag. Now Usopp is more likely to die at any time. Withdraw. Redhead didn't dare to bet on Usopp's life, and led a group of people to run directly towards a warship. Is this going away? Marine is dumbfounded. The Red Hair Pirates group has not landed for 3 minutes before F*K is going to retreat? Isn't this to be funny? In the future, the reputation of New World Red Hair Pirates is estimated to be stinking. Miller looked at all this indifferently. He didn't stop it, nor did Marine. At this time, Marine really shouldn't provoke another 4 emperors. There are many things to deal with right now. The first is to eliminate the remnants of the Whitebeard pirates. The second is to do our best to kill Rocks. The other thing is to smooth out the criminals who run out of Impel Down as soon as possible. As for Red Hair Pirates, just treat them as an audience. I'm here anyhow. I'll say goodbye. Miller slapped up. Thunder and lightning flickered between his fingers, and the rumbling thunder resounded through the sea. Redhead stood on the warship. He looked at the sky. Dark clouds condensed, and there seemed to be something hidden in it, rolling incessantly, and the sea was full of ominous feelings. 100 million volts Thunder Dragon. Miller released the thunder and lightning to the greatest extent, and the enhanced version of Thunder Dragon tore through the dark clouds and fell from the sky. Boom boom boom. The moment the Thunder Dragon fell, the powerful force caused the entire sea to tilt. The water splash rushed to a height of 100 meters. The warship that the red-haired group was riding on was directly swept into the bottom of the sea. Sabaody Archipelago. Because of the last battle between Kizaru and Miller, the island has been deserted. Kizaru's light radiation is too powerful. For many years, I am afraid that there will be no grass here. The original number 75 area. Here is the only remaining pure land, still maintaining the original appearance of Sabaody Archipelago. Most of the pirates who are about to rush to the Fishmen Island converge here. The Miller Pirates is no exception. As Miller's reputation grew, more and more pirates came here. They already had about 30 warships. Today, Miller can be regarded as a captain with 5,000 people in command. Its cadres are Enel, Bartolomeo, Nico Robin, Khalifa and others. But now another person joins in. Shiryu was successfully sent to Sabaody Archipelago by Miller. When he came, he was so miserable that he almost lost consciousness. The captain of the medical unit of Miller Pirate Group Trafalgar Law. He underwent emergency surgery on Shiryu, which cleared a lot of rotten meat from his stomach. It wasn't until a few hours later that Shiryu recovered. Half a day later, the war that gathered the eyes of the whole world came to an end. Marine's strategic goal was also achieved. The Whitebeard pirate group was completely wiped out, and only a few powerful captains escaped. Most people were arrested or killed in battle. Regarding Rocks, this guy retired from Miller last time, and this time he escaped from Marine. The means of life-saving is admirable. Although Marine won the battle, the losses were astronomical. The battle between Rocks and Garp and Sengoku led to the sinking of many Marlins. Marine actually didn't get any benefits, but lost a lot. The biggest winner is undoubtedly Miller. After this battle alone, he has taken nearly 20 abilities. And most of them are powerful devil fruit, such as shock fruit, rockberry fruit, everyone fruit Buddha form, frozen fruit and other powerful forces. In the end, he was awarded Shiryu, a good subordinate. In the evening, the sky gradually dimmed, and Miller finally appeared in Sabodi Archipelago. That night, Miller held a grand party. It was said that Shiryu was welcome to join, but in fact, he found a group of girls and went there alone. They had nothing to do with Shiryu at all, and he didn't even say a word to him. After a ridiculous whole night, it was only in the morning of the next day that Miller decided to set off for the Fishman Island. Miller's new bounty also appeared in the newspapers again. From the original 3 billion Baileys to 4.085 billion Baileys. Now he can be regarded as Mr. 4 billion. Shiryu also offered a reward of 300 million Baileys because of his good performance in the top war. Although it was seriously inconsistent with his strength, the first time he offered a reward of 300 million Baileys, this was already a sky-high price. In addition, Blackbeard has also been offered a reward. The guy had always been 0 Baileys before, and this time he went straight to 800 million Baileys. Most of the pirates who escaped from the war at the top have raised their rewards. After the Whitebeard pirate group collapsed, New World immediately began to turbulent times. First of all, the huge territory of the Whitebeard pirate group suffered. Among the 4 emperors, the Whitebeard pirate group is the largest in the territory, and now all this has become the fat in the eyes of other pirate groups. Kaido and the Ant both started to eat the Whitebeard pirate group. The two were busy eating meat, and the other pirates of New World were not idle, and followed the pirates to drink soup. Marine was busy defeating the Whitebeard pirates group. In fact, there is another meaning, that is, to frighten the pirates of New World. Ideals are beautiful, but reality is cruel. After the Whitebeard pirate group collapsed, instead of quelling the attack on the sea, countless pirates started fighting because they watched the throne. Too many people want to replace it. Sabodi Archipelago, Miller and the group were about to set sail and leave. A group of unexpected guys came. These people seemed to be out of sight, all dressed in black robes. Hey hey hey. Take off your clothes, and make you look like a vampire. Are you afraid of the light? Here, my Uncle Miller is the king, and there is no need to be afraid of the world government. In the luxurious cabin on the Ark Proverbs, Miller received a group of revolutionary army. Maybe it's because of the low-key habit on weekdays that they came to Miller's site, and they were still wearing black robes. After hearing this, several people took off their black robes one after another, and a total of 5 people were greeted, led by a woman with a nice face. She wears sunglasses on her face, a red long-sleeved waistcoat, a check tie around her neck, a long apron on her lower body, red boots on her legs, and light makeup on her face. This woman is dressed very fashionable. The most striking thing is that her waistcoat is open and her fair skin is exposed. If it's just that, the point is that people don't wear a corset, and Miller's eyes are straight. Does it look good? The woman drew her eyes. The expression on her face was a bit playful. Good-looking hair. Let me meet you frankly. Miller snorted coldly, but he couldn't help but glanced more. The commander of the Revolutionary Army, Bila Betty, what's the point of coming here? Miller smoked a cigar, smiled and asked, are you looking for trouble? Miller beat Luffy, the son of Monkey D. Dragon, and he can understand if he came to ask for trouble. The leader's mind is not as narrow as you think. North Robetti spit out the smoke ring, and said faintly, private grievances are not worth mentioning in the face of the interests of the world. This is what my leader asked me to tell you. In addition, our intention is also very simple. The Revolutionary Army and Your Excellency have a common enemy world government, and the leader hopes to build a platform for cooperation. North Liberty said quickly. To deal with the world government together? Miller narrowed his eyes. The Revolutionary Army has always wanted to overthrow the world government. Perhaps it is because the Revolutionary Army is not exhausted, and the Revolutionary Army is on a very difficult path. It is suppressed by the world government all the time. Once the Revolutionary Army is found, Marine will go to extinction as soon as possible. The sudden emergence of Miller gave them hope. What good is it for me? Miller asked very realistically. Why don't you talk to me about naive topics like the people? Shouldn't it be? Bila Betty asked back. Ha 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 ha, you look at me too high. I am a pirate. I am still a greedy pirate. How can there be such a great goal, so-called for the people, that are all saints like you? I can't do it. Miller laughed and refused. When the world government is overthrown in the future, the division of New World will naturally have your place. Bila Betty promised. Do you pretend to be a fool or think I'm so foolish? Miller frowned slightly. Tell me with this kind of empty check. The ghost knows if the world government can be defeated in the future. If it fails, wouldn't Lousy not get a single hair? Frankly speaking, what I need is the immediate benefits. Besides, I'm not interested in power. Even if you give me 10 or 8 countries to make me king, my uncle is not interested. Miller got up and walked to Bila Betty with a smirk. I think. He suddenly grabbed Beiluo's Betty's chin, and the smile on his face became even more presumptuous. What do you want to do? The guards brought by Bila Betty glared, and all cast hostile eyes. Don't act rashly. Bila Betty gave a cold cry, and she watched quietly. This guy's eyes radiated infinite possessiveness. There is no pure killing intent. North Liberty is very calm. This kind of person is always easy to deal with, just induce it with beauty. Phoo. Bila Betty allowed Miller to hold him, and just a little mouthful of heat on his face, and asked, what are the immediate interests you are referring to? Just you. Miller replied timidly. I have no interest in world power. Strength and beauty are my pursuit. Either your revolutionary army hand over all devil fruit abilities to me to copy. Either you will follow me in the future, or the little girl named Koala. Well, you two will do. Miller nodded and said, then let go of her. Bila Betty's pupils opened slightly. She didn't expect Miller to be so direct. Publicly important people like robbers. Well, my proposal should be within your scope of acceptance. Isn't your revolutionary army an organization led by a group of saints? For the future of the whole world, it is no problem to sacrifice 1 or 2 people. Miller's voice sounded a little strange. In fact, he doesn't catch a cold at all to this kind of guy who stands on the moral high ground and always accuses others. World government is not a good thing, but the revolutionary army is pretty good at the moment, and the ghosts will know what it looks like in the future. The warrior defeated the evil dragon, but in the end the warrior also became the evil dragon. The careerist could never believe it. I don't care. Bila Betty responded indifferently. As for Koala, I don't know her thoughts for the time being, but as a member of the revolutionary army, I think she should make the right judgment. Everything is for the future world, and sacrificing the ego is nothing. Bila Betty is sonorous and powerful, and her eyes are pleated and radiant. Miller looked at her, and for some reason, she felt a bit chilly and uncomfortable when she said that. These guys are like being brainwashed. Miller complained in his heart, and immediately said, if this is the case, you should go back and ask first. When you go to New World, the revolutionary army will come to me again. North Robeti nodded softly when he heard the words, but deep in the corner of her eyes was quite surprised. She always felt that Miller's attitude had suddenly changed. Farewell. Norberti didn't delay too much, and turned around with a few people and left Arc Proverbs. She stood on the deck and looked at the pirates gathered below. This rookie pirate has emerged as a giant, and there are many pirates who have offered more than 100 million rewards. Boss. How are you talking? Bartolomeo leaned forward as they watched the others leave, and his eyes were a little surprised when he looked at North Liberty. There was no crying, no resentment, and no killing intent, and it came out so quickly, that is to say. The boss actually let them go, a miracle. Anyone who knows Miller finds it incredible. Is this a sex change? Not so much. The revolutionary army has been brainwashed one by one, and we have been with them for a long time. Maybe even you have been brainwashed. Miller said leisurely. He didn't pay much attention to North Roberti and his party. His gaze spread away, passing everyone. Little ones, set sail. With a big wave of Miller's hand, dozens of pirate ships began to dive at the same time, and the ship models had been plated in advance, including the Arc Proverbs. The Arc's Proverbs belonged to a spacecraft, which was slightly modified by Frankie, and it also has the ability to rely on electric power to drive it in the water. The group of people left abruptly, and Marine gave a sigh of relief when he heard the news. To be honest, if a thorn like Miller jumps out of the pit at every turn, Marine should go to the New World to harm other 4 emperors. Holy Land Marie joys. The fierce war at the top was beyond imagination. Many Marlins were sunk. Before the new base was built, the naval headquarters was temporarily stationed in Marie Joyce. In the bright and spacious room, 5 elders and the army commander Kong were present. Ta-ta-ta, there was a sound of footsteps outside, and Marshal Marine Sengoku entered under the leadership of the soldiers. 5 adults, Brother Kong. Sengoku's face showed a rare look of respect, and the status of these people was higher than his existence. Sengoku, we all heard that Sora said, are you serious? The blonde 5 elders asked displeased Ly. The sea is so chaotic right now, you actually made such a rude request to resign. It disappoints us too much, Sengoku. 5 elders, a bald head with a knife, was also unhappy. You, Marshal Marine, have done a good job these years, and we are all very satisfied. 5 elders with a long beard whispered. You can continue to be this marshal, age is not a problem at all, and we believe in you. 5 elders have spoken, and Sengoku shook his head. Thank you very much for the importance and trust of several adults, but I have reached the age of retirement. Now the sea is the world of young people, and we old antiques should also hide behind the scenes. Even if you retire, Sengoku, you will train me as a recruit like Garp. Kong Shen said, you don't want to be lazy if you retire. Certainly. Sengoku smiled slightly, and then solemnly said, in addition, after this war, I realized a few problems. After the collapse of the Whitebeard pirate group, the sea became more chaotic. Impelled down in the riotous pirates, Marine's current strength is simply unable to deal with them. I suggest. Immediately expand the army, especially the top combat power. Whitebeard has collapsed, but there is another 4 emperors in the sea, the replica Miller. After the naval headquarters, his wings are completely plump. With Shiryu of Rain and Enel of Thor, he is already a real ocean. The emperor, even if this guy has no ambitions, we have to take it seriously. Among the 4 emperors, Sengoku is most afraid of Miller, the multi-ability. After going to New World, it is conceivable that his abilities will increase. There are even rumors that Miller also intends to build a huge army of capable people. Miller's army of capable people is the real demon fruit power army, not Kaido's reliance on artificial devil fruit. He has the physique of Blackbeard and can rob others of his abilities at will. What are you going to do with rocks? Commander Kong asked. His threat is undoubtedly greater than Miller, and empty brows condensed, and many worries appeared on his face. 5 elders didn't say a word either, and this is what they worry about. Once that guy is resurrected, the world will enter darkness again. The blonde 5 elders whispered, I think you have not forgotten what I was doing decades ago. The Valley of the Gods in the past was also one of the residences of celestial dragons, similar to the existence of Marie Joy's. At that time, the New World Overlord Rox led his troops to attack the Valley of Gods. The battle was extremely tragic, and the celestial dragons killed and wounded countless. Miller killed 2 celestial dragons, and everyone in the world blew him into the sky. No one knew that the Rox of the past were far more crazy than him. Rox is a pirate who was erased from history by the world government, and even the island of the Valley of Gods disappeared. Because he was so cruel that he dared to provoke the world regime, the world government did not allow such evil forces to exist, let alone anyone to imitate, so everything about Rox Pirate was wiped out. Had it not been for Roger and Garp to join forces to defeat it, the world today is still uncertain. Although Rox has lost his subordinates, don't forget that Kaido and Anti have grown up. If they respond to Rox again. Knife-bearing bald head 5 elders had cold sweat on their heads, and that was what they worried about. If Rox is a polished commander, it is not a big threat. What's terrible is that if Kaido and Anti get together with him again, the collapsed Rox pirate will resurrect. I think a few adults are completely worried. Sengoku expressed different opinions, and the others raised their heads. Neither the ant or Kaido, they are not the stunned young boy and the yellow-hairy girl before. They now have their own power, and they are the captains of their respective pirate groups. How can they continue? Be a little brother for Rox. They all want to be One Piece. How could such a person continue to succumb to Rox? Sengoku's eyes flickered. However, the concerns of the adults are not unreasonable. I think it is precisely because of this that Marine should expand its army to maintain the peace of the sea. Several 5 elders glanced at each other, then nodded one after another. Regarding your proposed military expansion plan, we agreed. 5 elders with a long beard asked, what do you think about the new marshal next? I recommend Kuzan. Sengoku said straightforwardly, and these words made the faces of the other 5 elders stiff a little. In this regard, Sengoku's thinking is completely different from theirs. 5 elders prefers Akainu. It's not that Aokiji is not good. The main reason is that this guy is too procrastinated and has a very lazy attitude. Even in peacetime, the sea is too chaotic right now. Marine should need a strong leader to be the marshal. The iron-blooded Akainu is obviously more reliable than Aokiji. It seems that they have already made a decision. Sengoku shook his head secretly. If 5 elders really agreed with Aokiji as the marshal, he would have nodded his agreement. They were silent and thoughtful one by one, Obviously they had other ideas. We tend to be Sakazuki. 5 elders with a scar on his forehead confessed, his strength and zero tolerance for pirates are enough to quickly stabilize the sea. It really is Sakazuki. Sengoku sighed secretly. Sure enough, Kizaru is not interested in being a marshal, who else besides Akainu? The thoughts of the 5 adults are not wrong. Sakazuki is indeed capable, but a radical marine marshal is not a good thing. Maybe it is a double-edged sword. Not only can it bring disasters to the pirates, but it may also hurt the innocent people. Sengoku hopes that 5 elders will seriously consider that Akainu is only suitable as a general against pirates in his eyes. His jealous and enmity temperament has crossed the line. I'll discuss this later. The blonde 5 elders waved their hands. In fact, they don't know how to deal with this matter. Although they chose Sakazuki, if they ignore Marine's internal opinions, there may be a huge gap between the two parties in the future, which 5 elders does not want to see. Hearing that, Sengoku is no longer wordy. There is one more problem, Miller, the replicator. At the time of the war, the guy came to my ear and said a word. It might be disrespectful to say it, but I still hope that a few adults will pay attention, especially to restrain celestial dragons a little. Say. 5 elders, with long beard and hair, said coldly. Sengoku said bluntly. Miller said, sooner or later I will score Marie Joys and make celestial dragons pay a heavy price. He presumptuous. 5 elders, who was holding the knife, flew into a rage, clanging loudly, and grabbed the scabbard with a large knife in his hand. The whole body of the white knife was covered with a layer of purple demon light. The horrible killing vented unexpectedly, and Sengoku, who was accustomed to strong winds and waves, was chilly, and the impression of 5 elders seldom looked like this angry. But frankly speaking, Miller is indeed too rampant. Rock's pirate, which ruled the second half of New World, was strong enough. Before Roger's rise, New World was their world, and Rock's might be the strongest enemy Roger encountered in his life. Even so, no matter how powerful the Rocks were, they did not dare to threaten to enter Marie Joy's and never set foot on the Red Line in their lifetime. This is disrespectful. That kid really didn't think that dozens of devil fruits' powers could defeat the government? Blonde 5 elders' eyes shot out a gloomy light, and the world government has stood for 800 years, with countless cards. Miller is at best a troublesome existence, and it is far from overthrowing the world government. Several adults don't need to be too troubled. The special science class SSG developed by Vegapunk has been accelerated. It is estimated that it will come out soon. SSG is aimed at his existence. It worked. In order to deal with the threat posed by Miller, Marine also racked his brains. Humans' devil fruit abilities can be replicated, so robots are not good anymore, right? The talk of Marie Joy's in the Holy Land, Miller is naturally not clear. The huge fleet of the Miller pirates continued to sneak under 10,000 meters in the deep sea. I don't know how long it took before they finally saw a ray of light in this deadly deep ocean. In the depths of the black seabed, there is an island glowing brightly. It is surrounded by a huge double-layer semicircular bubble film shield, and there is an air layer between the two shields. This is the Fishmen Island. Invasion. In the Ark's motto, Miller gave an order, and dozens of warships swarmed away. 10 minutes later, Miller and his team officially landed on the Fishmen Island. Strangely, there was no soldier to stop him along the way. Is the defense of the Fishmen Island so poor? Miller was walking down the street without even seeing anyone. His observation hockey dispersed, and an even stranger scene occurred, and there was no one in the nearby town. Don't you know in advance that Lousy is coming to run? Miller touched his chin, puzzled. Although he was a pirate and offered a reward of more than 4 billion cruel criminals, Miller hadn't attacked ordinary people yet. Forget it. He doesn't worry about this kind of thing anymore. Marine and world government have blackened him into a devil, so why do they care about this? Speaking of where to go to play, I don't know which bar is good when I first arrived. Miller stretched. He has a rule. Every time he comes to a new place, he has to go to the local bar to cheer up. The Fishmen Island is not easy. They suffer from human discrimination. He decides to be a saint and find some beautiful Murloc beauties to help them with some money. He saw the color hockey expand to the greatest extent, and the Fishmen Island was under his perception. That's interesting. Is someone attacking the Fishmen Island? Miller secretly felt strange. Through observation hockey's perception, it is no wonder that the people in the small town went to the empty building. Near the palace of the Fishmen Island, 2 groups of people were fighting each other. The scale is still extremely large, with thousands of people fighting on both sides. It is worth mentioning that the Fishmen Island used to be the site of the Whitebeard pirate group. It used to be good, with the shelter of Whitebeard. Who are you counting on now? Murloc slaves are exceptionally valuable in the human world, and they are often sold at sky-high prices. Just like Kami, Miller once bought Kami at a sky-high price of 1 billion Baileys. Do you want to intervene? Robin glanced at Miller and asked. Isn't this nonsense? My father-in-law is in trouble. How can my son-in-law turn a blind eye? Miller said righteously. Son-in-law? Robin's face turned dark, and she was certain that Miller was the first time to come to the Fishman Island. She looked at Miller very speechlessly. This guy must be a new species other than humans. Humans can't be so shameless. After a while, Kami came over. The conflict between Miller and Straw Hat Crew was because of Kami. Miller bought Kami for 1 billion Baileys. Luffy, a poor man, claimed that Kami was his friend, but he robbed him when he had no money to buy it. Naturally, he was beaten up by Miller, and all of them were photographed by him all over the world. Master Miller. Kami screamed respectfully. When she was first bought, she was still worried about being abused. Some people even put some marks on their bodies in order to show their ownership of slaves. For example, Celestial Dragon's hoof of the Celestial Dragon. Simply Miller didn't have the fun of pervert. After Kami was bought, Miller ordered her to be released. There was no restriction in other respects except not allowing her to leave. Every time Miller had a pool party, Kami's appearance would arouse wild calls. She was especially popular in the Miller Pirates. You know the sea forest of the Fishman Island. There is a piece of historical text. You can take Robin there. Miller gave the matter to Kami. After all, she is a local and is much more familiar than Miller. Clear. Kami nodded. Hizumori had heard of it. 10 minutes later, Kami and Robin set off. Miller summoned Shiryu, Enel, Bartolomeo and others, and the group rushed towards the Fishman Island Palace. The royal palace of the Fishman Island. The palace has been destroyed on a large scale, and roaring sounds can be heard outside. Neptune sat slumped on the throne. He called a group of palace ministers, and everyone looked desperate. Half an hour ago, members of the Big Mom pirate group suddenly came up. With the strength of the Fishman Island, how can it compete with the 4 emperors of New World? The final result is naturally only one crushed. Boom. With a loud noise, the gate of the palace was kicked open, and several Murlocs fell over like dead dogs. A group of pirates broke in forcefully, and the weapons they each held were stained with blood. Neptune was heartbroken, and all these executioners were stained with the blood of the Fishman Island. The man in the lead is called Charlotte Cracker. He usually hides in cookies. Not many people have seen his appearance. Cracker is the 10th son of the ant, offering a reward of 860 million Pele, one of the desert stars. You are too presumptuous. Next to Nipton, a figure flew out, blocking Cracker's body. Jinbei. Cracker frowned, and immediately said gloomily, "It turns out that after running out of Impel Down, you went back to the Fishman Island. Mom said, you are a good fighting force, and she sincerely invites you to join our Big Mom pirate group." Sincere? Invitation? Jinbei looked at the corpses all over the floor burning with anger. This is the so-called sincere invitation? Why did the Big Mom pirates attack the Fishman Island? We have no grievances with you, Neptune asked angrily. Are you stupid? Idiot. Cracker didn't pay attention to Nipton at all. Mom had a fancy to the Fishman Island for a long time. There used to be the Whitebeard pirate group. Now you have lost your umbrella. Mom is especially concerned about the Fishman Island. Deserts have a soft spot, that's why she started the war. Now. You surrender or die. The Cracker man pointed the knife at Neptune, and Cracker hissed. Walking to kill so many people just for dessert? Neptune couldn't help feeling that it was so absurd that hundreds or even thousands of people were injured just for some dessert. Isn't it ridiculous? In fact, what he didn't know was that, let alone murder, the ant even destroyed some countries for dessert. Neptune clenched his fist tightly. He stared at Cracker viciously. Although his face was not angry, his heart was extremely weak. Even in the face of the threat of the Big Mom pirate group, he has to cooperate with the other party, otherwise, the Fishman Island will suffer annihilation. This is the sorrow of the weak. Neptune squeezed his fist. His heart was filled with anger, but he was helpless. No way, the opponent is the 4 emperors of New World. What are 4 emperors? That kind of cut your hands and feet, you have to endure it. Very dissatisfied, right? It doesn't matter, if you don't agree, you will kill your whole family, or even the whole country. Be soft, King Neptune. Jinbei turned his head and glanced at Neptune. His eyes were extremely helpless. There is no need for the ant to touch it personally. Just her son can get organized to level the Fishman Island. Ha ha. Neptune gasped hard when he heard the words. There is no doubt that this is the shame of the Fishman Island, but he can't help it. Without the shelter of the Whitebeard pirates, there the Fishman Island is the fish on the cutting board. I. Neptune's mouth trembled, and finally bowed humbly. The Fishman Island is willing to. Who is this? Why is that stupid? An extremely harsh voice suddenly resounded, and the voice came again before everyone recovered. A good-natured person actually hides in the biscuit. Is it too ugly to be embarrassed to come out? Everyone who heard this was frightened, showing that they were scolding Cracker. The enraged Cracker looked at the source of the sound. A cheek that made him unexpectedly appeared, and the anger on that face disappeared. The duplicator Miller. Cracker exclaimed. The man in the sea these past 2 days, if he doesn't know him, he will be a ghost. Yo. No lousy, that's easy. Miller walked over with a smile. Tell me, are you too ugly to hide in this turtle shell? After all, there are not many of your Charlotte family that are not deformed. This guy. Everyone was sweating profusely when they heard this, and everyone backed away in unison to avoid harming the pondfish. This is no longer a simple provocation, but a clear war. However, unexpectedly, Cracker didn't do anything, or he didn't dare. He didn't have the capital to challenge Miller, just like Neptune didn't dare to challenge him. Cracker's face was extremely ugly, staring at Miller and said, The Big Mom pirates have no grievances against you. It's best not to start a war between the 4 emperors. It's no good for anyone. The battle between the 4 emperors. Miller smiled. It's okay for the ant. You are not qualified to replace him. Now you have 2 choices. One is to obediently let me copy my abilities, and the other is to die here. Miller preached savagely. You really want to go to war with our Big Mom pirate group? Cracker asked through gritted teeth. Let Miller replicate his capabilities. Normal people would refuse, but there is no doubt that Miller can't pass this level. This is what you forced me. Crazy flashed in Cracker's eyes. Anyway, he was a dessert star and belonged to the 4 emperors group. It would be ridiculous if Miller took away his power without resisting it at all. Little ones, come up and surround this guy. Cracker shouted at the Big Mom pirate group defender outside. 5 or 6 seconds passed, and no one responded to him. Your little brothers were probably hacked to death by my men. Miller Yin and Yang cynically taunted, and then he aimed his finger at Cracker like a pistol, laser. The flash shoots out and takes the Cracker straight. The latter hurriedly shouted, Hard biscuit. Cracker made the biscuit shield defense in the fastest time, and the whole body was embellished with armament hockey. Boom. The beam exploded and opened, and the shield that Cracker had been hoping for was immediately torn apart. Even the biscuit man was affected and exploded into a hole. The Cracker can be clearly seen. So destructive? Cracker emerged from the broken biscuit man. His true face appeared to everyone's eyes. Purple hair. 3 short hairs tied at the back of his head. There is a scar on his right eye. He is still wearing gloves in his hand, holding a large knife, and staring at Miller with ferocious and terrified eyes. Fight back. The ability will be instantly copied. Don't fight back. Do you want to be crushed and beaten? Cracker was extremely uncomfortable. Slap. Thunder and lightning flashed overhead. Cracker quickly raised his head. Surprisingly, a large mass of lightning quietly condensed. Miller snapped his fingers with a snap, and lightning poured down. Cracker, who realized the gap between them, quickly withdrew, and his hockey was simply not enough to defend Miller's attack. Boom. Thunder and lightning hit the ground, blasting the ground out of the black hole beyond sight. So close. Cracker took a deep breath. If it falls on him, I am afraid that he will be beaten directly, right? At the same time, the space behind him rippled slightly, very slight. Immediately afterwards, the space split into a circular door on its own, as if a door opened, and Miller swept out of it. Pouch. A heavy knife slashed Cracker's body, and his spine suddenly became fleshy. Cracker screamed. He was most afraid of pain, and the pain annihilated all reason at this moment. Turning around, he stabbed Miller with a stab. Damn it. A very accurate knife stabbed Miller's chest directly, but there was already a layer of diamonds covered in advance. Miller smiled at the corner of his mouth. Charlotte Cracker, who is capable of biscuit fruit, has completed the detection, and now we are copying it, 1%, 50%. Congratulations to host for obtaining biscuit fruit. Observation hockey and the carrier of armament hockey, Charlotte Cracker, have been tested. Not only the biscuit fruit, but also his visual and armed colors have also been copied, but his level of hockey is of little use to Miller. Oops. Seeing the smile on Miller's face, Cracker immediately realized something was wrong. He didn't attack Miller's deity and stab the diamond, so he wouldn't be copied like this, right? Enjoy the feeling of being besieged and killed by your own abilities. Miller spread 2 slaps, and a biscuit appeared in the middle. Then the 2 hands snapped together, and the biscuit man suddenly appeared. Pop. Miller slapped more than a dozen slaps in succession, and a series of biscuit people lined up to contain Cracker. I'm not afraid of these fakes. Cracker furiously attacked his heart. He swung his long knife, and when he was about to hack out, the injuries on his back made him have to stop. He was dizzy with pain, looking at the biscuit man who rushed forward, fearing that he would be beaten to death by his own ability. Withdraw. At this moment, Cracker gave up the will to fight. He was just a star. No matter how a cadre, how could he beat 4 emperors? He turned into a shadow and ran away, but... Where are you going? Enel and Shiryu of Rain happened to come in, and thunder and lightning erupted on their hands. The other is a long knife that came out of its sheath. Don't play too much, I want his devil fruit. Miller reminded him that his legion of capable people was already being formed. There are currently more than 20 people. Miller's army of capable people is very mixed, unlike Kaido, who are all zone capable people. He has Paramecia, zone, and even Logia capable people. All in all, the pirates encountered in the sea will either rely on Miller or be plundered. Cracker's biscuit fruits are obviously good too, how could Miller let it go? So, what? Neptune looked at Miller nervously. Thank you Lord Miller for helping me. Ha 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 ha, my father-in-law has seen you outside, Miller said horribly. The princes and ministers of the Fishmen Island are all shocked. I don't know what you were talking about. Neptune expressed shock, but he soon understood what Miller was thinking. Isn't he just a daughter, Shirahoshi? I and Shirahoshi match well, aren't they, talented and beautiful? I am the man she is destined for, Miller said boldly. The corners of Neptune's mouth twitched fiercely, and he said without a smile, Master Miller, Shirahoshi is still young. How can our love story be limited by age? Miller interrupted Neptune directly, patted his chest and promised. Also, Neptune, don't worry, I will not dislike Shirahoshi's young and ignorant. Everyone in the palace turned black. This guy is really shameless. Obviously this guy is good at eating tender grass. Neptune smiled bitterly. He wanted to refuse, but how to say it? The cracker he couldn't afford was crushed like an ant, and Miela trampled on him casually. As for him as a king, he doesn't need Miller to take action, just a wave of his sleeves, and a group of people can come up and chop him into mash. I think you made a mistake, Princess Shirahoshi is not suitable for you. Before Miller could speak, Jinbei on the side spoke. After seeing Miller, Jinbei's face was very unfriendly. Miller raised his brows when he saw this. What was the rushing tone? It looks like this is the first time I met you, Jinbei, Miller asked. Jinbei didn't answer this question. Anyone who knows him knows that Jinbei respects Whitebeard very much. Before, when Ace didn't join the Whitebeard pirates, he often harassed Whitebeard. Later, Jinbei heard that he went out in person and fought Ace for several days and nights. Miller did nothing to help the Whitebeard pirates during the war. Not only did not help the Whitebeard pirates, he even took advantage of the fire to copy the capabilities of everyone in the Whitebeard pirates, which is extremely shameless in his opinion. Therefore, he did not have a cold with Miller. It doesn't matter what you said. I think King Neptune will definitely make a decision. Miller looked faintly at Neptune, who suddenly felt that he was being targeted by the devil. Neptune was even more desperate. He had just driven away the hungry wolf, and now the tiger came again. Well, I can't make an idea about this. It's up to Shirahoshi. What does Master Miller think? Neptune asked carefully. He was also afraid that Miller would anger the Fishmen Island. Can. Miller nodded and agreed. Shirahoshi is still an ignorant girl. If even she can't figure it out, she'd better not go to the bar to pick up girls in the future. Jinbei can only stare when he hears this. He is an outsider and has no right to decide such things. In the end, he could only leave unhappily. Pity. Miller couldn't help but feel sorry. To tell the truth, he originally intended to recruit Jinbei, and Jinbei's Shichibukai was also cancelled. If he joined Miller's pirate group, he would be an excellent combat cadre. But looking at him like this, Miller didn't want a hot face to put on a cold ass, asking himself to be boring. Cracker's screams suddenly sounded. This guy not only had to face Shiryu and Enel, but even a group of crackers would attack. In just a few minutes it was full of holes. The pirate, who offered a reward of up to 860 million Baileys, was teased like a clown. Puff. Just persisted for more than 10 minutes, and finally Cracker fell miserably in a pool of blood. Breathing and heartbeat have almost stopped. Tisk tisk. Miller also came up at this time. He didn't know where he picked up a piece of wood and poked Cracker's forehead. I said, why didn't it work so quickly? Wasn't it fierce just now? There are a dozen scars on Cracker's body. Cough cough cough. Cracker opened his mouth and coughed up blood. He saw his pupils that were about to be closed open again. If you dare to kill me, my mother will definitely not spare you. I am the core cadre of the Big Mom pirate group. Are you sure? Miller's brows condensed. Scared? Cracker thought Miller was stunned, and he was overjoyed. He didn't want to die, let alone he was afraid of pain. I am the son of my mother, I am still a desert star. I am a pillar of life. Kill me. My mother must chase you to the end of the world. Even if you are also a 4 emperors, you must know that your mother has been in this position for many years. The foundation is too shallow. Cracker threatened loudly. This is also true. In the current 4 emperors, whether it is Whitebeard, Kaido, or Ant, everyone is extremely powerful, and Miller's 30 battleships are nothing compared to them. Only Red Hair Pirates has a Buddhist style, and its influence is relatively small, but it is also an elite line. Cracker saw Miller silently, thinking this guy would let him go, who knows. Snapped. Miller slapped his thigh and laughed and said, anyone who killed you and abused me. If that's the case, that's great. Lousy doesn't need to go to Cake Island anymore. Soul and Soul Fruit is an excellent ability. Lousy wants deal. Come on. Put this guy to death right away. Miller stunned Cracker with a word, and Shiryu of Rain directly slashed past with the knife. The Cracker mentality has exploded. This is not right. Normal people are scared to pee when talking about the ants chasing and killing. Only this guy. Even if you are also the Emperor of the Sea, you are fearless, but you can't jump and jump to welcome. Blue Brew. Seeing that Cracker was about to be shredded, the phone worm on his body suddenly rang. Shiryu's long knife stopped and glanced at Miller. He nodded. Shiryu immediately opened Cracker's clothes and took out the pink thick lip phone bug. Mother. Cracker was overjoyed. Miller snatched the phone worm and pressed the answer button. Cracker, you idiot, the Fishman Island has not been settled yet. How long do you have to wait for my old lady to eat? Mom, come and save me. Cracker suddenly yelled. Although it was a bit embarrassing, he couldn't take care of it anymore. Ant. Have you heard that too? Miller only spoke at this time, and slowly said to the phone bug. Your son is in my hands. I will give you enough time. I will be stationed in the Fishman Island for about 3 days. Miller instinctively planned to leave immediately, since the ant is willing to come, then wait. I don't know how to live or die. Even the good things of the old lady dare to come out and mix up. Who are you? The ant was hysterical, and she could hear her gasping on the other side of the phone bug. For the cake, the ant can destroy everything, even a country does not hesitate. No matter anyone's idea of making her cakes and desserts, it was enough to arouse the anger of the ant. He is Miller. Cracker said immediately, snapped. Enel rewarded Cracker with a big ear, and stepped directly on his face with his right foot, with a grim look. It seems that it was not miserable just now. You still have the strength to speak. Slap. After speaking, Enel released lightning again, and directly charged Cracker with smoke all over his body. He didn't even have the strength to scream, and his body convulsed vigorously. Miller. The ant on the opposite side of the phone worm immediately choked her voice. After hearing the name, her eyes sank immediately. Originally heard that Cracker was defeated, she was full of disgust at this waste. But Miller's words, the ant can accept it, after all, the other party is also a reward of more than 4 billion. I haven't provoked you, nor has I given a similar order. The ant explained, Cracker did it himself. Miller's thorny problem is recognized by the world. All people, especially those with ability, don't want to get involved with him. The ant also felt that the cakes on the Fishman Island were not tasty, and even a little bored. In the past, when Marine met Miller, they were panicked and almost all took a detour. Right now, this evil spirit has come to New World and is as unpopular as ever. I heard it wrong, right? As for Cracker, he was stunned. Andy's words were obviously throwing the pot, throwing all the problems on him. Miller is also confused. What's the situation? Is it good to hunt around the world? How did you become this bird? Then what? You don't plan to come to the Fishman Island to trouble me. Miller was a little frustrated. I'm going to kill your son. Huh. Cracker's stupid son is not as skilled as others. Why should my old lady wipe his ass? I'm responsible for causing trouble. The ant asked confidently, if you want to kill or kill, do whatever you want. There are several islands that produce cakes. If you like, I will give it to you. Haha. After speaking, the ant hung up the phone worm. Son. Does she lack a son? Dozens of them. Cracker is at best a potential and capable one. Miller was stunned, which was very different from what he had imagined. I vaguely remember that when Straw Hat Luffy announced that the Fishmen Island was his site, this move deeply angered the ant, and later threatened to kill the Straw Hat Luffy family. Why did the ant be persuaded when it was her turn? Not only Cracker, but even the team he brought to crusade against the Fishmen Island was killed by Miller. In this battle, how can the Big Mom pirates also lose hundreds of people? Is it the ant? Miller is a little unbelievable. When did the ant be so talkative? What should this guy do? Shiryu asked. He has no value. I don't worry about letting this guy join the army of capable people. After all, he has the blood of the Charlotte family flowing on him. Kill him. Miller said coldly. Shiryu picked up the knife and dropped it without hesitation, and pierced Cracker's neck with one knife. Immediately find a young man with potential. Biscuit Fruit's outstanding ability can't be wasted. Miller ordered. In the direction of Cake Island, in the luxurious castle of the Big Mom pirate group. Mom. Something bad happened, and Cracker's life cards suddenly burned out. A panicked voice sounded from the ant's castle. The ant who was lying down suddenly opened her eyes, bloodshot spreading in her eyeballs. Who did it? Killed Brother Cracker. My God. Cracker is a 860 million master, or a member of the Big Mom pirates. Who is so bold? Didn't the guy who talked to my mother just heard? It's him, Miller the replica. After hearing this, the ant's children talked a lot. Shut up to the old lady, do you annoying flies want to die? The ant roared, the sharp voice was extremely harsh, everyone who shook covered their ears, and the castle was also quiet. Mother, finally, the man standing in the corner spoke. He was strong, with a deep face, and his eyes were cold and quiet, giving people a sense of stability and reliability. This person is the second in command of the Big Mom pirate group. He will star Kata Cooley and offer a reward of up to 1.057 million Baileys. Really forget it, Cracker died too unjustly. Kata Curry's voice was sad. Although as a pirate, he treated his family with great care and love. In the face of the enemy, Kata Curry is as cold as a butcher. Everyone in the Big Mom pirate group believes in Kata Curry, even the ant is no exception. Even when he saw Kata Curry talking, the anger on the ant's face was reduced by more than half. Forget it. Of course not. Anyone who offends my old lady, no matter who it is, before or now, will not end well. The ant's eyes were cruel, and her son was dead, she didn't care, but Miller's attitude of not putting herself in the eyes deeply irritated her. Forbearance is only temporary. When the old lady finds a way to deal with him, I will personally tear Miller to pieces. The ant's eyes were all ferocious. During the war, Miller replicated more than 24 abilities, and the whole world could see it clearly through videophone worms. In this sea, almost no one wants to provoke Miller. It's not how powerful he is, but this guy's ability to replicate all kinds of things with one punch is too incomprehensible. The ant knew that the guy couldn't touch it, otherwise the strength she had worked so hard for so long was Miller's. As for the Fishmen Island, Miller, who knew that the ant would not come, was extremely depressed. It shouldn't be, isn't that woman fearless and fearless? In the palace, Miller was drinking sullen wine, which was not a good sign for him. Just imagine, if the 4 emperors treat him as a plague god and stay away from him, wouldn't it be more difficult to replicate the ability in the future? The pirate regards Miller as a wolf beast. There is a clear stream where Miller goes, and the pirates are all gone. He is much more efficient than Marine. Master Miller. Neptune was sitting beside him, and he raised his glass respectfully. Miller glanced at Neptune, then sighed, cheers. Miller drank all the strong alcohol in his hand. Neptune was taken aback for a moment, and asked in astonishment, Master Miller seems unhappy? Neptune was very anxious, very afraid that the Fishmen Island would not take care of Miller well. Maybe there will be a catastrophe. Although Miller has never attacked ordinary people, who can guarantee that the Fishmen Island is not the first? Where can I be happy and killed Cracker? The ant didn't retaliate against me. This woman is too weird, now I have to go to Cake Island to find her trouble, Miller murmured. Hearing that, Neptune twitched and smiled fiercely, but didn't smile, it turns out it's because of this. He suddenly felt that it was not easy to be a 4 emperor. His son was killed and the site he was looking for was robbed. Not only was he unable to take revenge, he had to endure it, and even to make Miller happy. Other aunts said they had given away a few islands for nothing. But Miller still has to go to Cake Island to find the ant's trouble. For a while, Neptune felt a little sympathetic to the mortal enemy ant. Can you stay out without hitting Miller? People can beat you. By the way, how is Shirahoshi? The decadence on Miller's face was wiped out when he mentioned the beauty. Shirahoshi? In addition to being a little bit reluctant, Neptune also felt countless ashamed. Shirahoshi spent his childhood in the Dark Tower because he was targeted by a certain villain. As a father, he is very guilty, but for Shirahoshi's safety, he can only make this choice. Shirahoshi has been locked in a certain tower over the years. If Master Miller wants to meet, I will take you to have a look after the dinner party is over, Neptune preached respectfully. Miller made an okay gesture when he heard the words, and patted Neptune on the shoulder and said, "But my father-in-law, you are always so respectful that makes me a little uncomfortable. Will you not be a family in the future?" There was only a smile on Neptune's face that was uglier than crying, and it was impossible for Miller to understand his mood. After half an hour, Kami and Robin arrived. After seeing Kami safe and sound, Neptune also breathed a sigh of relief. Before I heard that Miller had purchased a Murloc slave, Neptune was also secretly worried. There are too many slaves tortured to death by humans, and he is worried that Shirahoshi will suffer as well. It turns out that Neptune thought more about it. Kami didn't say how happy she was, at least there were no injuries on her body. Miller is not that kind of person, and he really doesn't have that kind of pervert interest. Your Majesty, Lord Miller is very kind to me, Kami said truthfully. During the period of being bought, there was no discomfort at all except for the restriction of freedom. That's good, that's good. At last there was peace of mind on Neptune's face. Robin also heard that Miller was going to marry Shirahoshi. Her face was a little unnatural, because in the historical text of the Sea Forest, she got a piece of content, the real body of Poseidon, which only appears every 800 years. A mermaid princess who can communicate with sea kings. It won't be a coincidence. Robin couldn't help but start thinking wildly. Have you been happy, Robin? Miller came up to grab Robin's waist. Maybe because she got used to it, she slowly adapted, letting Miller hold her. After all, in the Miller Pirates, which female compatriots have not been persecuted by the salty pigs? Used to it. When I saw what I wanted to watch, of course I was happy. Thank you very much, Master Captain, Robin said with feelings. Miller can leap over the red line by relying on the Ark's motto, but because of her own request, Miller and the group sneaked into the Fishman Island and entered the New World. She was very grateful. Ha ha ha. What is this? I will follow my uncle in the future to eat and drink spicy, ha ha ha. Miller laughed, and the salted pigsman started to act again. Robin was helpless and couldn't help but handed Miller a big Byakugan. Your father-in-law is still there, how about convergence? And Neptune didn't seem to notice anything, and went straight to lead the way. He listened to the laughter of the people behind him, and his heart gradually became more at ease. It is undeniable that this guy has taken a little bit of his attention, and he seems to treat women fairly well, although the methods he obtains are very rude, but at least he has not abused them. Pirates, especially those with more than 4 billion pirates like Miller. Do you still expect him to have a love affair with you? The world of the strong can just grab something they like when they see it. After walking for about 10 minutes, Miller followed Neptune to a black tower. The windows and door panels were all nailed down. There are also a large number of guards around. Neptune waved his hand, and the surrounding guards retreated. He took out the key and opened the rusty iron lock. Huh. A beautiful shadow suddenly rushed out and rushed directly onto Neptune. Because of his size, Neptune almost leaned back. Ooh, father. You finally see me, I thought you put me forget it. Shirahoshi holding Neptune crying, great big eyes. Ahem cough, it should be said large fist eyeballs kept falling. Miller was stunned. Shirahoshi's face was exquisite like a porcelain doll, and the slightly raised baby fat on his face made people want to squeeze twice. Shirahoshi has long flowing pink hair, bright aqua blue eyes, a beautiful and lovely appearance, a plump upper circumference, and shades of pink fishtails. These adults are. Shirahoshi looked around Neptune, staring at Miller and asked curiously. Neptune had a headache, and when he was thinking about how to introduce Miller, they immediately jumped into Shirahoshi's hands. My husband, you can call me husband. Miller watched Shirahoshi's gentle introduction, with a gentleman's smile on his face habitually. Robin closed her eyes speechlessly. She just asked Neptune about Shirahoshi's age. She was only 14 years old. The 14-year-old girl also cheated. When these words fell, the old face of Neptune's father suddenly went black. Someone lied to Shirahoshi like this in front of him? Husband. What a weird name. Shirahoshi pursed his lips and smiled, with a bright smile on his face. The silver bell-like laughter made people feel refreshed. Shirahoshi's presence was like everyone's attention, and everyone looked at her blankly. It's okay, I'll get used to calling more in the future. Miller preached shamelessly. Miller stared at Shirahoshi's pure eyes. The child was imprisoned in the Black Tower since he was a child. He has a simple personality, and there is no city. It is too easy to brush her favor. Just take Shirahoshi around for a while. Would you like to go out for a tour? Miller asked tentatively. Really, is it really okay? Sure enough, Shirahoshi was overjoyed and looked at Neptune with expectant eyes. Go ahead. Neptune patted Shirahoshi's head lovingly. Shirahoshi was previously locked in for fear of being hurt by a pirate. But now that Miller is here, and he is the bodyguard himself, Neptune has nothing to worry about. Look, there seems to be something coming over there. It looks like a ship. How can the ship fly here? Could it be that guy again? There was a lot of discussion in the surrounding people, and a dilapidated warship flew over. The chill on Miller's face was fleeting, remembering that there was a guy named Van der Deacon on the Fishmen Island who was Shirahoshi's pervert suitor. Not only demon fruit power, but also Lousy's rival. I really can't find a reason to forgive you. Miller stared at the warship flying in the distance, and slapped him with a bear-like breath. With a light flick, he quickly flew over with his breath. Big bear impact. Rumble. The dilapidated warship blasted the flying warship to pieces. Impressive. Shirahoshi waved her arms excitedly, and she has been harassed by Van der Deacon using such methods over the years. Forced by helplessness, he hid inside the tower. Robin, go and tell Shiryu and Enel that no matter what means they use, I must catch the scum of Van der Deacon. Miller glanced at Robin, who nodded and left. Let's go, Shirahoshi. Miller stretched. Shirahoshi nodded his head excitedly. But, Miller changed the conversation and said with a smile, you can't hold me in your hands. Why don't you try another place? Okay. Shirahoshi didn't think much about it, and directly tucked Miller under his chest and clamped it. The fish's tail swung vigorously, and the swish disappeared. After being held for many years, like a prisoner, Shirahoshi can't wait to release himself. Miller also accompanied him all the way. He followed Shirahoshi to every corner of the Fishmen Island. The two went to the mysterious sea forest together, where it was gloomy and dark, and Miller was there, so Shirahoshi didn't have to worry. The two also went to the magnificent coral hill, swimming together among various strange-shaped corals, having a great time. In addition, Miller left the Fishmen Island with Shirahoshi and went to explore other places in the deep sea. The most exaggerated is that he used his devil fruit abilities to bring Shirahoshi to land. What a wonderful world, what a beautiful sky, what a fresh air, what a gentle sunshine. The two parked on a beach. Miller lay lazily on the sand, relaxing in the sun. Shirahoshi looked at everything around him like a curious baby. Even the grizzly bears passing by, she has to stare for a long time. There are no land creatures in the sea. What you see is only the tip of the iceberg in this world. Shirahoshi, follow me in the future, and I will show you a more brilliant and wonderful world. Miller flicked. You can hardly imagine that a lollipop will make this kid laugh from ear to ear. Buy her some new gadgets that have never appeared in the deep sea, and you can bring Shirahoshi's excitement to tears. I think too, but is it really possible? Speaking of this, Shirahoshi's beautiful eyes are bleak. My father will definitely not allow me to leave the Fishmen Island. I am very grateful to my husband for being able to come out to play. Shirahoshi smiled innocently after speaking, and his face was full of contentment. Miller stared at Shirahoshi, the seemingly beautiful smile in his eyes, but it was actually full of sadness. Children should have a healthy childhood. What if I say your father agrees? Miller asked calmly. Really? Hearing that, Shirahoshi grabbed Miller with great excitement, clasping him tightly with both hands, and Miller complained bitterly. Hey. Shirahoshi, are you trying to murder me? Miller couldn't laugh or cry, but at this time, there was an unexpected voice in his mind. Ding ding ding. Shirahoshi, the carrier of the Poseidon's body, has been captured. Now I will start copying. 1%, 50%, 100%, and the copying is complete. Congratulations to the host Poseidon's body, unawakened state. The mechanical voice of the system dissipated in his mind, and Miller's pupils instantly widened several times, comparable to a fist. Is this considered as being attacked? F*K. After a moment, Miller exclaimed, and the voice could be heard all over the desert island. My husband, are you okay? Did I hurt you? I'm so sorry. Shirahoshi's tears came just as they said, and the tears dripped one after another, and the extra-large teardrops directly poured Miller into a soup. It's okay, I'm okay. Miller waved his hand again and again to indicate that it was okay. The flushing and excitement on his face did not disappear. It's just a little excited. I have to thank you for speaking of it, Shirahoshi. Miller's head is dumbfounded. He is now a Poseidon? In his vision, ancient weapon is impossible to replicate. Take Pluton as an example. This is a battleship. If Miller is to be shot, how can he replicate it? Could it be that Miller also became a battleship? One sounds like nonsense. But the change just now completely broke Miller's cognition. The object that the host replicates must be a living organism, and the ability of the host to replicate is only limited to devil fruit, hockey, and various physiques. The system in his mind responded that it was obviously a matter of copying Shirahoshi's physique. But this unawakened state is a pity. Miller couldn't help but feel sorry. If Shirahoshi's Poseidon power awakens, then Miller can also summon Sea Kings directly. At the moment, it seems that you still need to develop it yourself? As everyone knows, Miller is a slacker, and he doesn't even bother to develop Devil Fruit's abilities. Now the power of Poseidon is coming out again, isn't this embarrassing him? And he vaguely remembered that calling Sea Kings was accomplished by Shirahoshi's pious prayers at a critical moment. It's better to wait for Shirahoshi to wake up in the future, and I will copy it again. Miller gave up the idea of self-cultivation. Half an hour later, Miller took her to the human world to eat some snacks and food, which made the child so happy. The two played for a whole day before returning. For Marine, Sengoku decided to retire, and Garp, the two legendary characters, retired together. This is definitely a big event. This incident caused a lot of fluctuations all over the world. Some people think this is the beginning of Marine's decline. As everyone knows, it didn't take long for the explosive news to spread all over the world. First of all, Marine will launch a conscription all over the world. It is scheduled to promote 2 Marine Admiral and 2 Admiral alternates, and there will be many Vice Admiral out. Once Marine's expansion plan is completed, it will be sufficient to deter pirates all over the world. Regarding the new Marshal, Marine recommended Aokiji internally, while the world government favored Akainu. The two sides did not argue with each other for a good result. Even Aokiji and Akainu were not convinced by each other. Finally came the most primitive method duel. The loser is speechless, the winner is king. The decisive battle between Admiral, this is the worst and most effective election plan. There are other problems. Shichibukai. Crocodile and Gecko Moria and 7 warlords of the sea died in battle. Jinbei and Blackbeard left Shichibukai. At present, there are only 4 members left in this organization: Hawkeye, Boa Hancock, Storm Kun Shang, and Doflamingo. The balance between the 3 powers is about to be broken. The world government and Marine moved very fast. First of all, a man named Edward Wabel became their target. He was nicknamed Whitebeard E. He claimed to be the son of Whitebeard, and the weapon he used was the same long knife as Whitebeard. Another person was also invited by Shichibukai, Buggy the Clown, the luckiest man in the world. During the Blackbeard's uproar on Impel Down, this guy seemed to burst out of a small universe, leading a group of prisoners to escape, and also stirred Impel Down. It was turned upside down, and because of this, it attracted the attention of Marine and the government and was promoted to Shichibukai. If red hair is the strongest conqueror's hockey, then Buggy is definitely the strongest lucky color hockey. The situation around the world is changing. Supernovas have also entered the new world one after another. Some ambitious guys have formed an alliance and want to wrestle with the 4 emperors. There is also the latest news about Straw Hat Crew. On a certain island on the Grand Line, this is the base of the Revolutionary Army. Luffy, who was practicing originally, did not know why he burst into tears. This makes Monkey D. Dragon very puzzling. Luffy, what's wrong? Looking at Luffy rolling on the ground, the dragon was confused and couldn't figure out what happened. Usopp, he is dead. Luffy's eyes were red and swollen in crying. After arriving at the Grand Line, the members of the Straw Hat Pirates made each other's life cards. The rest of the people are fine, but Usopp's life card burned to ashes. Luffy almost collapsed on the spot after learning the news. And the remnants of the life card are almost dissipated. I am afraid it has been dead for a while. The most pitiful and helpless thing is that they don't even know who killed it. The duplicator Miller. Luffy clenched his fists. Although he didn't know who killed Usopp, it was Miller who flew them off. Therefore, no matter who killed Usopp, Miller must be at least 50% responsible. Luffy, I just came here to tell you something. Seeing his son hate Miller so much, Long secretly had a headache because the Revolutionary Army had decided to join forces with Miller. Koala and North Roberti also decided to sacrifice for the Revolutionary Army, and followed Miller from then on. Well, I have to say that the Revolutionary Army is really a great organization. I hope you give up your grievances with Miller. We have decided to join forces with him to deal with the world government. Long said straightforwardly. Luffy looked at him blankly, his pupils gloomy. It's hard for me to accept this kind of thing. After being dull for a while, Luffy yelled frantically. His father wanted to join forces with the guy who killed Usopp. He will never allow such stupid things to happen. Luffy, as long as the Revolutionary Army and Miller work together, they can leverage the foundation of the world government. Not to mention Miller's own strength. His subordinate Nico Robin also controls the whereabouts of ancient weapon. With Miller's cooperation, it won't worry about defeating the world government. Long preached fanatically, and it was his dream to overthrow the world government. I'm not interested in this kind of thing at all. I know that guy is my enemy. Luffy came up with a stubborn temper and looked at the father with awe-inspiring eyes. Even if you are my father. After speaking, Luffy left angrily. His heart was particularly aggrieved. His father actually stood on the side of the enemy. Is his companion's life so worthless? It seems a bit difficult, Dragon. A monster dressed up suddenly came out from the back, with a purple exploded head, long and thick eyelashes, and light blue eye shadows. The clothes were also quite weird, mesh stockings and cloak, tight and ultra-low cut. Bodysuit. This guy is called Ivankov. He is neither a man nor a woman, but a so-called new human. When Impel Down was in chaos, the imprisoned Ivankov also escaped. I still said that private interests are not as good as national interests. Luffy is too simple. The dragon's voice is hoarse. If you join hands with Miller to overthrow the world government, you can pay the minimum price and reduce the casualties. If you count on the Revolutionary Army to do it alone, you will not necessarily be successful if you pay thousands of lives. And Luffy seemed to be unable to understand what he did. In Luffy's eyes, the life of his companion was above all else. The Fishmen Island Palace. Shiryu and Enel did not disappoint Miller either. They managed to capture Vanderdyken. This guy was miserable, his whole body was burnt by lightning, and there were several shocking incisions behind his back. Stupid Shiryu. This guy was caught by my uncle Enel. Don't try to take credit for it. Enel squinted. Shiryu warned, otherwise, Uncle Enel electrocuted you. The latter also glanced at Enel. I don't care about the so-called credit, but you should pay attention to the tone of your words. Be careful that I hit you. What? When Enel heard the words, thunder and lightning went wild. You try it again. Ever since Shiryu came, Enel felt that his second master position was threatened. It looks like your kid hasn't been hacked before, right? Clang. The thunderstorm around Shiryu's waist came out, and his eyes were flushed. What are you two idiots arguing over there? Did you put me as the deputy captain in your eyes? Bartolomeo jumped out. You fool, you are not qualified to be a deputy captain. Enel sneered. Don't be embarrassed by a group of little ghosts who have not grown up. You used to play house games. Shiryu sarcastically said. After joining in, he is obedient to Miller. But for others, the attitude is different, because Shiryu also wants to be a deputy captain. He thinks he is the strongest crew member besides Miller. His two competitors are Enel and Bartolomeo. Enel believes that he is not weaker than Shiryu, while Bartolomeo thinks he is a veteran. What are you three flies buzzing over there? Miller came in from outside with Shirahoshi. After seeing Miller, the three of them yelled respectfully, Boss. It's all Shiryu looking for something. It's Enel's fault. These two idiots are looking for the difference. The three blamed each other. Miller was speechless. Shirahoshi was laughing there. My three subordinates have some problems with their heads, don't laugh at them. Miller said helplessly, and immediately glanced at Vanderdyken underground, and half his life was left. Boy. This is the price of stealing women from me. Miller stepped on Vanderdyken's head and ordered someone to take Shirahoshi down. What happened next might be bloody. In a short while, Bartolomeo found a young man with potential. Miller released the dark scene of dark fruit and wrapped Vanderdyken and the young man. Vanderdyken's screams were heard in the dark, and it lasted for about 10 seconds before stopping. Enel looked a little horrified, and if he refused to join the Miller pirates, it would have ended in the same way. Miller snapped his fingers, and the dark scene in his eyes was undone. Vanderdyken had died tragically, his body had a hole in his body, and his two eyes were wide open, and his face was full of horror at the moment of death. Thank you, Lord Miller. The young man who had acquired Deacon's ability knelt to thank him. The target fruit was already his. You should understand what to do. Miller glanced at the man, who nodded, came up and gave Miller a punch, and the system immediately detected his target fruit and quickly began to replicate. I got another devil fruit. There was a happy smile on Miller's face. The Fishman Island was very rewarding this time. Devil fruit, ancient weapon, and beautiful women, none of them were missing. Pass the order on, let everyone prepare. We are almost ready to leave. I don't think the woman, the ant, will come. Let's prepare to go to New World. Neptune's bedroom. After returning, Shirahoshi came to see Neptune. Seeing his daughter came back, Neptune smiled and looked at Shirahoshi's blushing face. He knew that his daughter was playing well. Father, my husband is willing to take me away from the Fishman Island. I want to see the outside world. How about just a few days? Shirahoshi took Neptune's arm and pleaded pitifully. Shirahoshi, you have grown up. With the protection of Lord Miller, you don't have to hide in the Black Tower like you used to live. Let's follow Lord Miller to New World and witness the colorful human world. I made up for you. The corner of Neptune's eyes flashed, and although he was a little bit disappointed, he finally agreed with Shirahoshi's idea of leaving. Really? Shirahoshi cried with joy. Of course, no matter what kind of request you make, my father will agree. But I only have one request. You must bring a phone worm. We must talk when my father misses it, understand? Don't be so troublesome, my husband said. As long as I miss the Fishman Island, he can bring me back anytime. My husband is amazing. He also used his superpowers to take me into the human world at once. I have never seen such a beautiful sun before, and we still. Shirahoshi brags hard about how powerful Miller is, and Neptune on the side has tears in his eyes. In such a short period of time, it seems that his daughter has fallen. Women's college is not staying. Neptune sighed again and again. Master King, Master Miller invites you to come over. Suddenly a guard came to report. Neptune nodded and left after saying goodbye to Shirahoshi. Arriving in the main hall of the palace, Neptune saw the tragic death of Vander Deacon. He looked cold and unsympathetic. This guy deserved to die. But there was another group of people who were also caught, all Murlocs, which puzzled Neptune. Could it be that these guys offended Miller? Why arrest us? The leading man questioned angrily. His name is Hoodie Jones, and the future Murloc riots were caused by him. This is to help you solve your future troubles, my father-in-law. Miller sat on the throne of Neptune and said, this guy will betray soon, and your wife, Princess Otahime, was secretly killed by him. Before I left, I was avenging my mother-in-law. A cold light flashed in Miller's eyes. What? Both Hoodie Jones and Neptune looked at Miller in shock. Hoodie was surprised how he exposed. How did this guy know the secret? Neptune was a little dazed. Princess Otahime has always been a pain point in his heart. He looked at Hoodie in disbelief. He turned out to be the murderer? It was incredible. This guy had also been a guard of the palace before. Hoodie is not a fool. If he admits it at this time, he will only have a dead end. I didn't do it. If there is evidence, you can take it out. Hoodie strongly denied. Evidence? Ha 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 ha. Lousy laughed to death. You ask me for evidence? Miller's stomach hurts with laughter, and he squints at Shiryu. Clang. Hoodie heard the sound of the sword being unsheathed, and then the black figure threw himself in front of him. He hadn't seen the other party's action as a pouch. Hoodie screamed and Shiryu cut off one of his arms. Does the pirate know the evidence, you idiot? Enel also flashed lightning with his fingers, and fell straight on Hoodie. Boom boom boom. Lightning exploded on Hoodie, and this guy was screaming heartbreakingly, and his whole body was burnt with smoke. Hoodie was rolling on the ground, his blood-red eyes glaring at Miller. It's quite fierce, it seems that I haven't had enough memory. Miller looked playfully. Shiryu heard the words and cut out the thunderstorm again. With a pouch, blood spattered away, and Shiryu's other hand was chopped off by Shiryu. Nipton looked at this scene extremely pale, too cruel and bloody. Continue. Miller said blankly. At this moment, Miller was extremely terrifying in Hoodie's eyes, like a devil. Don't come. I killed Princess Otahime. Hoodie admitted in horror, quite a bit of a conspiracy. He really can't play it anymore, his hands are gone. Then there are two legs, right? Really, you bastard? The unbearableness in Neptune's eyes was immediately banned by anger, and Princess Otahime was the love of his life. Over the years, Neptune met Princess Otahime when she was dreaming, and sometimes looked at Shirahoshi and felt hurt. I sent someone to assassinate Princess Otahime, and then I killed the murderer again. As for why? Because I hate humans. Hody is full of disgust, he and Arlong are similar roles. Then please die. Miller flicked his finger, and a beam of light penetrated Hody's head. One by one, his little brothers were frightened and panicked. They knelt down and begged for mercy. Miller looked at Neptune. These people just took care of him. Grab them all. Neptune ordered the soldiers to bring these people up while looking at Miller and thanking him. Thank you, Lord Miller. If it weren't for you, these years have passed, and I still don't know the truth. Ha ha ha, isn't it right to avenge my mother-in-law? Miller smiled disapprovingly, and immediately said, after half an hour, we will leave. Send someone to tell Shirahoshi to prepare. In the meantime, Miller had asked Frankie to revise the arc's maxim. It was necessary to expand it, otherwise there was really no place to wear Shirahoshi. About to enter the new world, there is one person who is the happiest Trafalgar Luo. Wait for me, Doflamingo, you won't live long. On the battleship of the Miller Group, Luo stood on the deck and looked into the distance, eyes full of joy visible to the naked eye. His strength is also improving rapidly, but he hasn't grown to the point where he can compete with Doflamingo. But Miller is different. What is a Shichibukai in the eyes of the four emperors? Miller doesn't even need to do it. As long as the order is issued, Shiryu and Enel can chop Doflamingo into debris. Seeing that revenge was about to come, Luo was naturally in a good mood. During the time of the Miller pirates, Luo Hun was not bad, and his status was not bad. The medical team led by him was highly regarded by everyone. Some people heard that Luo and Doflamingo had a grudge, and they all clamored to go to Dressrosa to make Doflamingo look good. To be honest, Luo was very moved. Yo! A familiar voice suddenly sounded behind him, and Luo looked back, and it was Miller who was smiling. Master Miller. Luo looked respectful. What is your kid in a daze here? It's time to act. Miller and others have already boarded the ship one after another, Shirahoshi and Robin. These female families are all on the Ark Proverbs, that is a place forbidden by men, and belongs to Miller's paradise alone. I'm going to New World soon, I feel a little excited. Luo truthfully preached. Just a little Doflamingo, that kid can't run away, I'll give you the opportunity to slash Doflamingo. Miller patted Miller on the shoulder and went to Ark Proverbs. 10 minutes later, the group left the Fishmen Island one after another. Neptune looked at the mighty fleet, with a blank heart. New World's Punk Hazard, Akainu and Aokiji have been fighting here for several days. The two are obviously playing for real, and they all work hard on each other. In the past few days, both of them were injured. Akainu had extensive frostbite on his body, and Aokiji's leg was also melted. But even so, their battle still didn't stop, the legs were gone, and Aokiji used ice cubes to make prosthetic limbs and continued to fight Akainu. The same is true for Akainu. The frostbite on his body is nothing. He will never allow himself to lose to a guy like Aokiji. In a certain sea area of New World, the calm sea was bubbling with bubbles. Under the deep ocean, large shadows appeared. Boom. After a few seconds, the surface of the sea exploded, and the coded Ark's Proverbs took the lead to rush out of the deep sea and sail into the sky. The remaining 30 warships also swept out one after another. Ha ha ha. Finally here, Tremble, New World. What Ant and Kaido are a joke, this era will definitely belong to Miller Boss. The air in New World is exceptionally fresh. After thoroughly setting foot in New World, the crew of the Miller pirate group raised their arms and shouted. Some of them were just young. If they hadn't boarded the big ship of Miller, it is estimated that there would be no hope of setting foot in New World in this life. Little ones. Miller stood on the Ark Proverbs, looking down at the more than 5,000 people below, with craziness and bloodthirsty on his face. The hunt has begun. All the pirates we see, as long as they are capable, are our prey. Let all the abilities on this sea be in fear under our feet. Let's build the strongest army of capable people in history. Miller issued the most frenzied declaration, which gave people the feeling that he had to single out the rhythm of all the pirates in New World. After Miller's order was issued, the 5,000-man pirate group immediately launched an action. In the sea area within 100 kilometers, almost all pirate ships that appeared were swept away by them. As for Miller, manipulating the Ark Proverbs found an island nearby and went to rest. He has no interest in doing such troublesome things at all, Enel and Shiryu can do it. It's okay to capture the capable people alive or bring their corpses. After dismissing everyone, Miller alone opened the swimming pool parrot on the Ark Proverbs. Shirahoshi just joined in, how could Miller let her go? Time flies, and in a blink of an eye it is 3 days later. The Miller pirates set off a bloody storm in the New World. In these short 3 days, more than a dozen pirates who offered a reward of more than 100 million have been poisoned. The capable army of the Miller pirates also climbed to 40 people. No matter which pirate group it is, no matter how powerful it is, as long as it can't beat Shiryu and Enel, they will all be captured in the end, and those who resist will be killed. If you want to live, you must obediently give in, let Miller copy his abilities, and finally join the army of capable people. Otherwise it will be a fate death. Soon after, the Miller pirates invaded New World, and the news that many capable people were brutally attacked made headlines in the newspapers. Pirates everywhere in New World are full of fear. Miller used to make chaos in the first half of the Grand Line. At that time, New World was still a paradise, but now this demon is coming. Everyone with abilities on the sea is at risk. After the 4th day. It's not right. How come there are fewer capable people in the past few days? On the desert island where the Miller pirates were temporarily stationed, Shiryu had just captured 2 capable people and sent them over. Enel was not caught by one person today, and so did the others. We are all demons in New World, and all the pirates ran away when they saw us. Enel said helplessly, "Boss, your reputation is too bad. You are too trash." Shiryu took the opportunity to humiliate. "What do you say about the waste of 700 million yuan?" Enel suddenly became angry. "That's the assholes of Marine who are blind. Lousy is obviously better than you." When talking about this, Shiryu became very hot. In his eyes, he was much better than Enel. In the past few days, he has been harming pirates all over the New World. His bounty reached 700 million baileys. But while Shiryu's bounty is rising, Enel's bounty is also increasing minus 900 million. Enough. You go back. You have time to talk nonsense here. It is better to get me more capable people over. Miller was also drunk, and the 2 Diao Mao had to quarrel every time they met. Fortunately, Bartolomeo is not there, otherwise he will definitely join in. By the 5th day, none of the capable people made the money. Lucky on the 6th day, I ran into a Logia capable person. In the next 3 days, almost no people were seen in the nearby sea. When it was the 10th day, God gave a face and finally caught 2 capable people. And also a member of the Don Quixote family Buffalo and Baby 5. Welcome both of you to my site. In the Arc's Maxim, Miller smiled after seeing the 2, glanced at Luo from the corner of his eye, and secretly gave a thumbs up. These 2 people were caught by Trafalgar Law. "Luo, you bastard, dare to arrest us, the young master will not spare you," Buffalo glared. "Doflamingo will die soon, follow me, I need you." Miller responded indifferently, and he stayed on Baby 5 for a few more seconds. His appearance was not bad, his skin was fair, and he was dressed in a maid's uniform with his long legs exposed. This dress also made Miller's eyes shine. "Really, really?" Buffalo didn't say a word, but Baby 5 on the side looked at Miller with beautiful eyes, revealing a nymphomaniac. Speaking of this woman is a bit weird, and she desperately desires to be needed in her heart. As long as you are needed by others, you cannot refuse others. Whether it is borrowing money, or even proposing marriage, or all kinds of sales promotion, Baby 5 will accept it without hesitation. In addition, the popularity of this woman is extremely poor. Almost all the people she met were scumbags and liars, so she was often deceived and owed as much as 98 million berry in debt. "My daily life is terrible. I need a good maid like you to work for me." Miller smiled and looked at Baby 5. She nodded again and again to tears into Baby 5's eyes with excitement. "Are you crazy, Baby 5? The other party is the 4 emperors of New World," Buffalo reminded. "That's even more of an honor for me." Baby 5's answer made Buffalo almost vomit blood. This woman always dropped her IQ like this. This is bad. Buffalo felt cold. In fact, he and Baby 5 had other missions to escort someone to Punk Hazard. Unfortunately, on their way back to the voyage, they happened to ran into Luo who was out hunting. As a result, these 2 guys were caught. Royal Palace of Dressrosa. "Young master, it's not good, Buffalo's lifeguard is gone." Next to the swimming pool, Doflamingo was basking in the sun, and suddenly someone ran over in a hurry. He opened his eyes and saw that it was Toripal. "Even my people dare to kill. Can you find out who did it? What about Baby 5 with Buffalo?" Doflamingo's face was gloomy, and after so many years, few people dared to provoke him. Baby 5 is unharmed for the time being, only Buffalo's lifeguard is burned out. As for the murderer, I don't know. But according to my inference, it is probably the Miller pirates. For so many days, they have been hunting capable people in the sea. They dare to attack Shichibukai. Only 4 emperors in the sea are as bold as the 4 emperors. Toripal said worriedly. Young master, that guy is not far from Punk Hazard, just in case. Kaido is standing behind Laozi. Doflamingo's eyes were gloomy, and then after thinking about it carefully, he shook his head again. In case he really had a conflict with Miller, Kaido might not help, and no one wanted to provoke Miller. Young master, the entire sea knows that the Miller pirates are hunting abilities madly recently, and we have a lot of abilities in the Don Quixote family. Wouldn't that guy make our minds? When Toripal's words fell, Doflamingo's face became even more ugly. He participated in the top war, saw Miller's strength with his own eyes, and copied his ability by touching him. The opponent is also one of the 4 emperors, an existence that Doflamingo can't afford to provoke. Even if that guy kills Buffalo and Baby 5, there is nothing we can do, we can only befriend him. There was a flash of light in Doflamingo's mind, and he soon thought of a good way to meet Miller. On Miller's side, after successfully acquiring Baby 5 in his pocket, he killed Buffalo. It doesn't matter if you don't attack Miller. The old way is to kill him first, then transfer the ability to other people, and then order your own people to attack Miller. All this is logical. Boss, take a look, this is definitely big news. Bartolomeo rushed to the Ark Proverbs with the latest newspaper. It's so noisy, you bastard. Do you know that you broke my good deeds? Baby 5 came out of the cabin and his clothes were disheveled. He just explained to Baby 5 that he was seriously lacking in love. Robin and others are speechless and lack love. There is not enough care for Miller. Miller took a look at the newspaper, his eyes quivered. It is indeed the big news that shocked the world. Akainu became Marine Marshal. After Aokiji was defeated, he left Marine who had served for 10 or 20 years. Are there 2 new admirals, codenamed Fujitora and Green Bull? These 2 admiral alternates. Well, this woman named Momoshagi is very delicate. Look at these long legs and spider tattoos. You look like a very open girl. It's not bad to have this pretty face. Tell Enel and Shiryu, find a chance to catch Laozi over. But be careful. Since it is an admiral alternate, if the strength is not good, others have not caught the overturned car. Miller has always praised Momosagi's appearance, and Bartolomeo on the side is very painful. He didn't let Miller see beautiful women. Boss, the guy Akainu has become Marine Marshal, not to mention that he moved the new Marine headquarters to the G1 branch of New World. This guy will obviously have to face the pirates head-on. Bartolomeo yelled that Miller was not interested in this, and just glanced lightly at the newspaper report about Akainu. After becoming a marshal, Akainu began to spend money like dirt, and he can smoke a cigar. Is he imitating Laozi? Miller complained to the newspaper. Everyone was extremely speechless, and Miller's observations were always different from others. In addition, Akainu wears a blindfold on one of his eyes, and this guy is now a Cyclops. His right eye was damaged, not from the battle with Aokiji, it was caused by the headshot of Miller's Dark Hound during the war. In addition, there is a report on 7 warlords of the sea. Whitebeard E. Edward Wable and the clown Buggy officially became Shichibukai. There was also news about the departure of Marine veteran, Black Arm, Zephyr from Marine. The man who cut off Zephyr's arm was Whitebeard E. Now Zephyr is too old to be useful. His enemy was elected Shichibukai. This deeply stimulated Zephyr. In a rage, he led his men to leave Marine. Zephyr, filled with anger, was like a wild horse, and any pirate he saw was the target of his attack. A lot of big things really happened. Miller nodded, and then gave a weird smile. However, Marine has added 2 new admirals. Congratulations on becoming the target of this uncle again. Fujitora's gravitational fruit, Miller, is eye-catching, and the ability of the Green Bull is naturally not bad. Boss, a boat is coming. Enel suddenly flashed onto the Ark's Proverbs. He looked at the sea in the distance and said, it's the banner of the Doflamingo pirates. Did the clown guy found out that 2 of his subordinates were killed by me? Miller stroked his chin and thought. But the opponent doesn't seem to be here to fight. There are no combatants on the ship. Enel looks strange, and it's all a bunch of beautifully dressed women. Hearing this, Miller was taken aback, and then laughed, ha ha ha. The clown guy is very funny, Enel. It's called to do what you like. Enel, let him go. The whole world knows that Miller is an old scumbag. Doflamingo, who has been in the ocean for 10 or 20 years, has become an adult, and he naturally knows how to fawn on Miller. After a while, the battleship approached. The whole ship is a woman. Miller glanced casually. Maybe because of his different aesthetics, he didn't even see a few of them. With a big wave, it was directly given to the crew. Another key member of Doflamingo is Toripel. Next to the swimming pool on the Ark Proverbs, Miller was relaxing and recuperating. Master Miller, are you satisfied with the gift you brought? Toripel asked cautiously, standing beside him. Satisfied. Lousy will give it away. Miller glanced at Toripel, and said faintly, are you looking down on Lousy? Sooner or later, there is going to be war. Miller will not give a good face. He has already promised Luo that he will help him destroy the Don Quixote family. Don't dare, don't dare, don't dare. Toripel was so frightened that he stooped and said, Master Miller, if you are not satisfied, after I return to Dressrosa, I will prepare the next batch. No need. Miller waved his hand and said indifferently, I didn't feel the sincerity of the Don Quixote family. Does the clown think Lousy is easy to talk about? You can fool me by just finding some crooked melons? Please forgive me, forgive me. Toripel was sweating profusely with fright. This is not right. The females are all superb looks. According to Toripel, Miller is deliberately trying to find fault. If Miller is not balanced this time, their Don Quixote family will be in danger. These are other gifts the young master has prepared for you. Toripel beckoned, and someone immediately carried 2 heavy boxes over. Pry it open. There are as many as dozens of man-made devil fruits. If the 2 boxes add up, there must be no less than hundreds of them. In order to kneel and lick Miller, Doflamingo really scared enough blood. But Miller, you or he really despise me. Come on, throw me the dog thief Toripel into the sea. Miller suddenly went crazy, and directly frightened Toripel to the ground. Isn't that satisfied? Why do we do? Why? Toripel was so scared that he couldn't speak well. Isn't sincerity enough? Lousy is rare to man-made devil fruit. Miller's eyes shot a gloomy light. The chance of this thing failing is very high, probably only 10%. 100 people can only give birth to 10 abilities. Those who are right, am I right? Toripel's expression was frozen, in fact it was so, but for the average pirate, this ratio is not a problem at all. Take Kaido as an example, he doesn't care about the lives of his men at all. It was Miller's turn now that it didn't work. Did you jump into the sea by yourself or should I help you? Luo was forced to come up with a cold face, and the taisho from his waist had already taken out. Luo, you ungrateful brat. Toripel didn't get angry and yelled, don't forget who took you in when you became a bereaved dog. It's the family, you traitor. Yes, I will never forget that dirty family. Luo's eyes rolled with a cloud of light, and his face was covered with a layer of cold light. I can't forget how Mr. Krasen was shot by Doflamingo. This kid. Toripel's face turned dark. He regretted it now. He knew that he shouldn't have come to die. And Miller, the shameless guy, has no bottom line. He doesn't seem to understand the rule of the 2 countries are at war, don't cut it. Withdraw. Toripel quickly turned and ran off. Miller closed his eyes and continued to bask in the sun. Because of the fat and bloated figure, this guy runs very slowly and doesn't need to do it himself. Room. With a wave of Luo's hand, the oval transparent space spread, swallowing Toripel in the blink of an eye. During the time when he joined the Miller Pirates, Luo's strength was also rapidly improving. He was in control of seeing and hearing color and armed color one after another. Perhaps he was not an opponent of Doflamingo, so it was not a problem to clean up Toripel. The long knife in his hand was pointed at the front and swept lightly, and Toripel seemed to have been slashed by 1,000 swords, and his body suddenly split into countless pieces. Hey hey hey. Luo, you made him like this, how can I rob him of his abilities? Miller opened his eyes and looked at Luo reproachfully. Can you take such a disgusting guy? Luo asked a question. That's right, ha ha ha, your kid makes sense. With this guy's ability, those beautiful ladies will refuse me. Forget it, let's throw it into the sea to feed the fish as soon as possible. Miller waved his hand. Luo Wenyan nodded, fiddled with his fingers again, and the fragments of Toripel's body flew out of the Ark Proverbs. Luo, your kid dares to treat me like this, the young master will definitely not spare you. And Miller, your copy, don't think we are just as simple as Shichibukai, our backer is Wanakuna's monster Kaido. Even though the body was divided into hundreds or thousands of pieces, Toripel hadn't lost the ability to speak, threatening with his voice open. Don Quixote family and Kaido have a business relationship. Kaido's army of capable people is mostly based on the artificial devil fruit obtained from Doflamingo. If something goes wrong with Doflamingo, Kaido will definitely be dispatched. Luo looked at Miller, who still waved his hand blankly. Wow. Luo put away the room space, and the fragments of Toripel's body suddenly fell into the sea. The capable people are all land ducks. After less than a minute, Toripal closed his eyes permanently. If the order is passed on, immediately gather the fleet, and the capable people in the nearby waters have been swept clean. Next stop. Punk Hazard. Miller still stretched his fangs towards Doflamingo. He learned a secret from Baby Five's mouth. After the decisive battle between Aokiji and Akainu, Punk Hazard turned into a burning island of ice and fire. No one dared to approach it. This is the best place to study man-made devil fruit. It's quiet and still no one bothers. Buffalo and Baby Five escorted Mgiza Kalang to the past, but when they came back, Luo caught him. There are also two capable people on the island. Miller does not intend to let go. One is Guy Saw, and the other is Guy Saw's assistant and secretary Monet, who is responsible for secretly monitoring Guy Saw. Wait. Doflamingo, it won't be long before I will take off your head. Luo's eyes were full of joy, and at first he was a little worried. After all, Toripal sent so many man-made devil fruits, it would be miserable if Miller agreed. It turns out that Luo thought more about it, after which Miller directly ordered someone to throw the man-made devil fruit into the sea. He doesn't need this kind of thing. Royal Palace of Dressrosa. Don Quixote family also has each other's life card. When Doflamingo knows that Toripal's life card is exhausted, he knows that it has failed to meet Miller. Why would that guy reject me? Doflamingo is like a madman, smashing many precious champagne and calligraphy and painting. In his opinion, he was sincere enough. Miller likes nothing more than those two things: power and beauty. He did everything well, and the result? Not to mention the failure of the negotiation, even Toripal's life was taken in. Doflamingo's heart aches. Toripal was the veteran who followed him in the early days, and Toripal has made great contributions to this day. Young master, what shall we do next? A sharp voice asked. This person was wearing golden armor and bronzed skin, and his figure still looked very strong and full of muscles. Pika, one of the core senior cadres of the Don Quixote family, has a bounty of 220 million Baileys. With our strength, we can't stop the Miller pirates. The opponent is 4 emperors. Another person said with a trembling voice, his name is Diamante, one of the core senior cadres of the Don Quixote family, and an early follower of Doflamingo. The reward also reached 230 million Baileys. What else can I do? I can only ask for help like Beast's pirates at this time. Tell Kaido that the Miller pirates are going to attack Dressrosa. If I'm done, he won't even want to get the semi-manufactured devil fruit in the future. This is Doflamingo's last life-saving straw. Unless Kaido doesn't want to build an army of capable people, otherwise he will definitely find a way to support it. Blue Brew. Soon, the Don Quixote family called the phone worm who contacted Beast's pirates. Doflamingo has an unusual relationship with Kaido. He can even contact Kaido directly. What's the matter with Lousy, clown, grumble? After a while, a drunken voice came from the other side. Hearing this movement, it seemed that he was drinking alcohol. My site was attacked by Miller, and Miller's guy will come back soon. If Dressrosa can't be kept, our cooperation can only end. As soon as Doflamingo came up, he threatened Kaido. Grumbling. On the other side of the phone worm, Kaido's drinking voice still heard, hiccup hiccup. You fool, can't you just kill that guy? Hearing that, Doflamingo's mouth twitched violently. This guy must be drunk. If you can kill Miller, Lousy will call you for help. Also, Lousy is busy committing suicide, so how can I be in the mood to bother you? Hey. Where am I? Why did I fall into the crater, mother, let alone? This hot spring is pretty good, let's hang up, Lousy is going to take a hot spring. Kaido's maddening voice came across from the phone worm, and Doflamingo hung up the phone worm in despair. Kaido doesn't seem to be referring here. Call Beast's pirates of Wano-kuni and ask the 3 plagues to send someone to support Lousy immediately. In desperation, Doflamingo could only ask for help from the 3 plagues. Doflamingo is very shrewd. As long as you drag the 3 plagues into the water, Kaido will not want to stay out of the situation. On Punk Hazard's side, Miller and his gang were already approaching. Dozens of warships were docked on the shore, and the Ark's proverbs hovered overhead. It's impossible for Guy to fail to notice such an open invasion. It's over. Why is that guy here? Lousy is going to die. In the underground laboratory, Guy paced back and forth. He was anxious at the moment and made a dozen calls for help to Doflamingo. It doesn't matter if you send someone, the key is that no one is connected. This made Guy Sar suddenly feel that he was abandoned. The opponent is the veritable 4 emperors of the sea, and a man offering a reward of more than 4 billion Baileys. Guy glanced at his small body. Probably not enough for the other to punch, right? Calm down, Guy. Monet, the undercover agent of the Don Quixote family, comforted. The Don Quixote family will definitely not abandon us. Huh, this is not necessarily. Guy snorted. Although he said he was too important to Doflamingo, he still didn't have the courage to provoke the four emperors. When facing Kaido, Doflamingo shivered with fear. Boom rumble. Boom rumble. Boom rumble. The battleships staying on the sea began to shell out in turns, the island was trembling, and all the fortifications were destroyed. Guy tried to pick up the phone worm and order a counterattack several times, but in the end he was silent. Rebellion. Isn't this dying faster? About 10 minutes later, the entire island was covered by a wave of artillery fire, and even the remnants of the decisive battle between Akainu and Aokiji were cleared. My uncle can't bear it anymore. Guy, who was hiding under the ground, let out a roar, and then he rushed out of the laboratory, yelling about surrendering or something. This is not to blame him. The taste of the sky cannons exploding on your head is too depressing. Guy Saw is not a determined man in the first place. Moreover, Doflamingo's phone worm couldn't get through, and he didn't send someone to support him. Could he wait for death? Stop, Guy. If you surrender, the young master will definitely not spare you. Monet chased after her, looking at her with awe-inspiring eyes. You call the clown the young master? Guy Saw's heart sank. Although he is a bit more nervous, it doesn't mean that he is an idiot. This woman made it clear that Doflamingo sent to monitor her. Over Punk Hazard, Miller looked down at the island covered by gunfire, like the surface of the moon, full of craters. It's almost time to start catching people. Miller ordered a large number of pirates to land. Before the many pirates began to search, Guy's voice rang through the sky through a horn. Master Miller, I am Guy's current, I surrender. Guy's voice came from the deepest part of the island. Miller observation hockey spread out, and then looked into the distance, southeast. Guy is scattered there. Huh. The Ark's proverbs flew directly over. On one of the ruins, Guy tied Monet and shouted continuously with a trumpet. This is a gift from me. This woman is Logia's snowfruit. At the juncture of life and death, Guy directly betrayed Monet with this unscrupulous thing. Guy, you bastard dare to betray the young master. You are dead. Monet was anxious, her hands were bound by the seastone handcuffs, unable to move. The clown will not let go of Lousy. At least this uncle can live for a while. Now that he offends the Miller pirates, Lousy will definitely die. Guy made the calculations very clearly. He could live one more day. Monet became even more angry and was tied up by the seastone handcuffs. She was now more vulnerable than ordinary people. A silver light pierced the sky, and suddenly stopped on Guy's head. He looked up and saw that it was a huge spaceship. Miller jumped up from the spaceship and fell right next to Guy Saw. You are very witty. Miller glanced at Guy Saw, and finally fixed his gaze on Monet. Snowfruit ability, it seems to be pretty good. Actually, this woman looks okay. Guy added slyly, no one in the world knows Miller's hobbies? Yes, it's okay, but well. Miller looked at Monet's legs, which were obviously some kind of bird creature, and the pair of light green wings. But my taste hasn't reached this point yet, so kill it if you take away the ability. Miller's simple sentence decided Monet's fate, and Guy Saw hurriedly knelt down in fright. Master Miller, I am willing to cooperate with you, as long as I live forever. Guy Saw is not a tough guy, as long as he can survive. Copying devil fruit is nothing. Okay, just give it to you.